welcome, welcome, yes. We've got quite a few matches here today. Kind of just depends, honestly. There are basically infinite number of replays for me to cast from the Warhammer World Championship, so for those of you guys who have been living under a rock and don't know, this has been going on. We're now on Phase 2. There was one group phase. We're now on a second group phase. The first group was semi-geographically based, so you could be sure that your opponent was in a similar time zone as you. Now, though, in Group 2, top of those groups have advanced, and these are now kind of mixed, different time zones, so we'll see. Could be a little bit tougher for players to get their games in. It is a, play at your own pace kind of deal. So, yeah, we've got a whole bunch of replays today. I've got several that I have downloaded now here, and I put out a call on Discord just live. If anybody has replays from that round that they'd like to share, anybody here in the chat as well, if you can just point me to your group, and I'll go, because I have access to, all the replays. I can go download them, so even if you just tell me, like, hey, this is my group, this is my username, I can go pull those, and we can have a look. So yes, as far as Rakarth goes, I'll just address this now. Creative Assembly announced a free LC Lord for Dark Elves, the Beast Master Rakarth. I will have a video coming out on him on Wednesday, deep diving on some early access. Don't want to say too much beyond that, but one thing to note, obviously, the repercussions of that is we will be having a patch, so I'll also be covering the balance changes probably once the patch goes live, because sometimes there are minor changes, in between the press kit build and the live build and so on. So, yeah, nice. We'll have a little balance patch, a little bit of something for the Dark Elves as well. As far as what this means for DLC, I won't speculate too much right now. I'm going to save that for a different video, but yeah. Yeah, it's free. I mean, free is free, right? And I will say, I don't want to say a lot. I'll just save it for the video. You guys will see. It's already recorded, in fact, and ready to go, so just gotta wait till Wednesday. Anyway, let's move on to today. We've still got plenty of games going on right now, of course, in the Warhammer World Championship, so because of the nature of this, as it is kind of a best of 3, I'm going to be hiding the replays. Let me see if I got this correct. Wurzag is not... Let's see. There he is. Alright, Wurzag is here. Just want to make sure we got Dancing Wurzag as the screen blocker, as always, as we load up some of these replays. I believe I just got an email from Creative Assembly through Cold War Access. Yeah, I literally just got an email, like, as I was getting ready to stream. I noticed it come through on Total War Access, so I think maybe it went to Total War Access users only? I don't know. Let me pull it up. Maybe we can look over it in just a minute. But I want to get started on these replays here. We're going to start with Reginald Puggington versus Riffle Shuffle. I forget what group this is from. I really should have written this down, but, hey, very professional here. Let's just get started. We're here for the battles, right? So... Thank you, Wurzag. All right. So we got High Elves versus High Elves versus Vampire Counts to start. Black Coach here, we've got a Terror Goose, Devils of Schwarzhofen, Manfred von Karstein up in the air, some Fellbats, a couple of Blood Knights. This is Puggington here playing Counts, a bunch of zombies. Against High Elves, we've got Alariel and a Star Dragon up in the air, so a little bit of a air duel, probably likely. The Vampire Counts have spent more on their Air Force, but of course these Lothran Sea Guard can shoot to a degree up in the air to help support that. Bunch of Spearmen. Silver Guard mixed, just a bunch of anti-large, staunch line of spears, if you will. Mixed Silver Guard and Spearmen. We've got Fireborn as well, so relatively straightforward. Saw Puggington play very well with the Black Coach before, so let's see how we can do here. Alariel is rocking Tempest, Heart of Avalorn, Earthblood, and Faw's Protection. Manfred coming in Spirit Leech, Raise Dead, and Invocation. So relatively basic kit, but he does have the benefit of Spirit Leech. Looks like he took Life Leeching as well. We'll see. And I fast forward a little bit as they approach. Blood Knight's going to set up on this flank here. Buggington not necessarily just YOLOing straight in, and this is something that I see a lot of Vampire Counts players do, is just sort of like, you know, engage directly with the enemy. I mean, in this type of a situation, Manfred is in big trouble, but, you know, might as well take your time with the zombies. Make sure you get good engagements. Here, heads-up engagement. Ooh, Fau's Protection is going to help the Fireborn a little bit there, and immediately a Star of Averlorn proc being used just decisively win that engagement. I say decisively, though. At the same time, the Blood Knights just get an invocation of the heck. Manfred goes down to the ground where he needs to be to avoid Star Dragon and Ilario. Elves of Schwarzhofen come in along with the Terror Goose, but Goose gets pounded by the Star Dragon. That's a really bad interaction for him, specifically because of the fire damage and some other things. I mean, Manfred did just dive onto this with some of the best anti-large cav in the game, and then Devils of Schwarzhofen do as well. They do have pretty good armor-piercing damage. Let's take a look. Yeah, the Dragon Prince's Fireborn actually getting terrified. Manfred, though, taking a beating from Ilario and the Star Dragon. Coach comes in kind of to body block the Star Dragon in here, and now the Blood Knights also countercharging in. Oh, nasty backbreaking Tempest, though. Climbing on that is brutal. I'm not sure if Manfred can survive this. Goose is also not feeling great about the situation here. I mean, we do still have this Black Coach and a lot of the Blood Knights relatively healthy, but this unit here, nice job getting them out and around and chasing off the, yeah, the Fireborn. Manfred's just straight up staying away at this point, though. I mean, he does still have a few breath attacks left, and if he can save those and try and use them, could still recoup some of his value, but that's pretty rough. At the same time, Star Dragon's going to come out here and try and bail out the Fireborn. This is a pretty juicy kind of countercharge target for the Blood Knights, but they really ought to stay committed there. Black Coach also starting to do some work on the infantry. The Devils of Schwarzhofen have been pretty good so far. Let's see, though. Fighting Lothern Seaguard isn't going to be amazingly efficient. They definitely want to try and save themselves for these big, you know, expensive targets. But Manfred's feeling a little bit better. He's going to come back. Nope, maybe not. A little bit of a distraction run there, just trying to summon up some zombies or, you know, get some kind of support here. Earthblood helping to heal everything. That little blob. But now the bats are able to chase the Fireborn off, most likely. That does free up these Blood Knights to potentially come back. Maybe. But Devils of Schwarzhofen, nice around with these Blood Knights as well, getting a good charge in here. Just VTOL breath straight down into the Lothern Seaguard. Will lead to them getting terrified. And a little bit of a scream from the Terror Goose. Don't know if that made the greatest contact in the world, but nice little counterpunch. You can see that balance of power fully stabilized. Oh man, this is dangerous. Goose dives in, but he now is probably going to get directly rear charged by the Star Dragon. Yep, you can see he's trying to nope out of there. Bring some more zombies in for support. Blood Knight's got to be careful not to get just too bogged down in all this launch line of spears, but the Lothern Seaguard are squishy enough targets that on rear charges, side charges, especially these tattered units, can get some good work done. But the issue is Manfred needs to stay on the ground to get the support of the Blood Knights. Like, this fighting, I don't know, this is a really silly interaction here. This Terror, guys, can't get in the air. Is trying to. It really could be used in this fight here. Devils of Schwarzhofen actually dealing some pretty good damage as well, but they're going to pull away now. Goose also pulls away. Star Averlorn's just left there to heal up the Star Dragon. And, yeah. Yeah, the Black Coach going to pull away now. This spear line is a bit of a problem at this point. I mean, yeah, there's still a lot of power units left for Vampire Counts. Maybe if they can snipe out Ilario and the Star Dragon, but the ground force for Vampire Counts is just slowly getting ground down. We've also still got the bats. Both units of bats quite healthy. Let's see. Oh, didn't even notice it was still on the ground. Yeah, the coach could be pretty key here. Like, exactly like this, just kind of finding these isolated units, big shock terror routes. I mean, Silver and Guard do have 75 armor, but still relatively low HP. They are still elves after all, so this big kind of shock charge Definitely do a lot of damage. The unbraced spears, too. I mean, they're just asking for it, right? So far, so good. Kind of. I mean, balance power slightly in Vampire Count's favor, actually, at this point, but we know that's mostly false. Manfred should have some more some more zombie summons left, but I'm not sure exactly how many. Nasty Tempest, once again, on poor Goose, who definitely doesn't deserve that. But he's going to go to ground. Let's see if the Blood Knights can get a charge on the Star Dragon. It looks like they were a little bit too close where they didn't proc their charge animation, and now, unfortunately, the Silver and Guard moved to block, and yeah, Goose getting stuck in by the two single entities here just takes a big amount of burst damage. You can see that Star Dragon just ranks up again. Man, that's so brutal. Invocation of the Heck on those Blood Knights, trying to keep them sustained. Devils of Schwarzhofen getting dangerously low, but definitely would rather have the Blood Knights at this point. Black Coach, a heroic job here, just helping to clean out this infantry and keep things terrified. A little bit of extra mass as well. If it could get out and potentially come up and around and, like, cycle charge the Star Dragon a little bit in this melee engagement, might be alright. On the High Elves side, really the biggest thing, obviously, is just to keep the Star Dragon alive with the Lariel. Try and play off the spears. You know, stay on your spears. And if Manfred tries to go back up in the air, he can just kind of get double sniped at this point. So balance power taking a turn for the worse for Puggington, unfortunately. Yeah, with the coach against a ton of infantry, that's pretty common. I mean, the one thing about high elf infantry is the stats. Even though their HP is not great, their stats are good enough that they don't take a lot of damage, like incidental damage from like zombies and skeletons and stuff like that, in the same way that even like Empire will, you know. Like corpse carded zombies, they'll trade okay for the cost against a lot of units, factions, but high elves, dark elves, wood elves, all their melee attack and defense is just a little bit too high for that to actually be super viable. But the Blood Knights did a pretty heroic job. Black Coach also definitely pays for itself, but yeah, I mean, the zombies are a very good unit. They unfortunately don't do a lot for you here. Terror Goose as well. You know, the flying units against high elves, it's tough. For my own playstyle, I tend not to try go all in on the ground game. Then again, that does leave you vulnerable to like getting air sniped, but man, this Star Dragon, 5,500 damage, and I know a lot of that's inflated from healing on these high value targets, but still absolutely ridiculous. Everything else just kind of holds the line, right? And the Star Dragon does the work. It's very basic, but it works. Fireborn are an interesting pick in this, but sweet. So let's get Warzag back up here as we move on to the next one. See if Puggington can bring it back. This time we've got Lizardmen versus Greenskins. Looks like Crocky G, Feral Steg, Feral Bastillodon. Got a Skink Priest, two Skink Priests, in fact. Manticore summons, I'd imagine, and probably Harmonic Convergence, maybe Wind Blast, we'll see. A couple Javelins, a couple Red Crests, including the ROR, of course. Pahawk Sentinels, Cold One Riders, and Razordawn Hunting Packs. I actually really like to pick the Razordawns here against Greenskins. Speaking of which, we've got Bob, Skarsnik, Night Goblin Shaman, Goblins, Orc Error Boys, Black Orcs, Orc Biggins, two Spider Riders, a couple of Skirmish Cavalry over here, Spider Rider Archers, and of course Mangy Marauders. But yeah, Vindictive Glare hits the hill a little bit, hits Krokgar slightly. Krokgar, you know, he also has a magic missile here called a Hand of the Gods, and it is very, very strong potentially against certain targets, so look for Krokgar to potentially snipe out Skarsnik, Bob, Night Goblin Shaman, any of those targets. If he gets a clean hit with all the missiles, it will absolutely devastate, and look at that, just like that. Bob gets blasted in the face by the Hand of the Gods, half HP damage, absolutely insane. Just to set the tone of how this one's going to go. Stegodon immediately charging in the front lines. Night Goblins don't really have the leadership to stand up to that. Krokgar helping to bunker bust this front. Gork will fix it, gonna keep them relatively pinned in place, but nice compromise here. Good use of skink skirmishers as well, not even chameleon skinks. The skink skirmishers do have more unit models, they're cheaper, but obviously don't have the same melee stats and missile resistance of the chameleon skinks. Manticore summon, so full court, press with terror. Feral Cold Ones just kind of head. Did I say Cold One Riders earlier? I might have. There are actually, yeah, some Cold One Riders, some Feral Cold Ones. Nice. I like that. They're going to saturate in here with the Red Crest, and this is actually an interesting combo here. You get a little bit of poison for the Red Crest, some AP, both fighting Black Orcs, but it looks like all the clever girls are actually going to disengage, form up in a nice big kind of pocket here. Vindictive Glare point blank looks like didn't do a lot to that Feral Bastillon, as he's now going to terrorize this poor Goblin Shaman, who definitely did many wrong things and totally deserves everything that's happening to him. Little rear charge from the Manticore just to make sure that he doesn't come back. Krokar fighting Orc Boys, Black Orcs, is only taking a little bit of damage. And yeah, all the Orcs quickly getting surrounded. It's not often you see the Orcs get outrushed, Orcs and Goblins, but kind of happened here, honestly. Wah finally being popped a little bit late. These Borbigans, they're not really going after any high-value targets here. Mostly just hung up on Skinks and Clever Girls, which is totally fine. Bob got Hand of the Gods, and now he's going to feel the wrath of Krokar in melee. At least just for one hit, which is enough to send him packing. I mean, same, you know, same for sure. But Fighter Riders, excellent charge on the Skink Skirmishers, trying to shut them down. Greenskins, at this point, though, I mean, Skarsnik can try and duel Krokar if he wants to. It's going to be pretty tough, considering the lack of support, and all of the support is just running for the hills. Really not looking great. Pawhawk Sentinels haven't had to do a lot here, but they're still hanging around, applying that, you know, poison from the air. Potential opportunity to drop some rocks on some Black Orcs. Like, these big ones are, you know, still around, but how much can you actually do on Krokar? Well, they're going to try. Fungi was popped there, momentarily debuffing the melee defense and making Krokar enraged, but he shrugs it off. Sacred Spawning of Zodal going to give him some physical resistance, put him up to, you know, higher speed. Or no, not actually speed. It's vigor, that's right. I always think that gives him speed. Skarsnik just getting absolutely surrounded by all of the lizards. See the Razordons in here too. Yeah, Razordons, I don't know what they actually did, to be honest. Wasn't keeping track, but evidently they were shooting stuff. Got about 500 damage value, not too bad. Didn't really need to do a lot, honestly. The cheap monsters definitely carried here, and a lot of people say Greenskins are super strong. I do think they're a strong faction. I don't think they're top tier, simply because their leadership is just still kind of bad. Yes. Oh yeah. Nice Fanatics coming through, cleaning the clock out of these Red Crests. Does finish off the Feral Cold Ones as well, so, I mean, Greenskins are not completely out of this yet. Skarsnik is technically still fighting here, and he may yet get the best of Krokar. The Razordons are going to come in and screen him out, though. Block for the boss. Same thing with the Pawhawk Sentinels, so Skirmish Cav coming in, do the bidding. Feral Bastillons are just great. Yeah, honestly, Feral Bastillons and Feral Stegodons, for the cost, are pretty ridiculous. Like, in terms of cost for weapon strength, Feral Stegodon is one of the best units in the game. 76 charge bonus and 420 weapon strength. Like, I think it's the only monster under 1200. I don't know, how much weapon strength does a Broodhor have? I think it has 400, right? This thing has 420 plus, again, 76 charge bonus. Absolutely insane weapon strength for 1100 points. Like, very, very good. Even with the Enrage, it's really not a big deal. And like, Feral Bastillon, 650, terror-causing tank, basically. That still has pretty solid stats. I mean, not a ton of weapon strength, it has to be said, but, you know, just kind of 140 armor. Body, you know, has mass, a little bit of punching power. All the Feral monsters are fantastic. So yeah, we'll fast forward through this late game. Pretty much knew a while ago how this was going to end, but, you know, still got to finish the game. Greenskin's going to give it their best attempt. One more Fungi actually uses it on the Feral Stegodon. Still loses anyway. GG to Riffle Shuffle. Puggington will go to game 3. Let's go ahead and put Dance Warzak back up. Hide the other replays. Now, I don't know. I think Feral Cold ones, you just lower their price to like 400, and I think they're really good all of a sudden. Like, they're not that much overpriced. Even 425. I think 450 is just a little bit too expensive. But anyway. Ace match between these two. Let's get to it. We've got... Haha, yes. Empire versus Dark Elves. So, Peggington, you're officially my hero. We've got Volkmar the Grim, a couple of Outriders, Swordsmen, and Flagellants. 2 Flagellants. I actually really like the pick of the Flagellants in this matchup, just to help even out the infantry odds and have something that won't rout too quickly. Swordsmen, Spearmen on the flanks. 1 unit of Lance Demigryph Knights, this is correct. 2 units of Empire Knights, the Silver Bullets, Jade Wizard, 4 healing on, you know, the Demigryph Knights. This is a very good build, I have to say. I approve of everything here. Got some archers, too. A little bit of cheap skirmish, just because, you know, never hurts to have against Dark Elves, who have brought Malekith on a cold one, which is a pretty interesting choice. I actually kind of like this choice. Malekith on foot is also pretty decent right now, believe it or not, but on the cold one, he's a pretty tanky presence, great stats, good armor piercing, damage, and charge. A decent HP, not amazing, not even 4,000, but still, that's okay. Bleak Swords, yeah, the 1 Bolt Thrower, some Cold One Knights, and the Slaanesha's Harvesters, so gonna have a little bit of a cavalry engagement here, including the Outriders and Repeater Crossbows. Get a nice kind of, you know, direct correlation here. Outriders do have the advantage of being able to fire while advancing, whereas Dark Riders have to stop to use their crossbows. So in this type of a situation, the Outriders are actually going to be firing as they advance and as the Dark Riders retreat. This is kind of the one direct advantage that they have here. This is a great showcase of that interaction specifically between these 2 units. Although if the Dark Riders do turn around and start shooting back, I mean, it is going to be a pretty significant amount of DPS. Yeah, pretty good burst damage there. A little bit better than the Outriders. So some fun skirmish cav shenanigans. Demigryph Knights pulling up. Volkmar also just, you know, rudely interrupting, absolutely just blocking the skirmish cav engagement. They're like, hey, we were having a nice, you know, like, shootout or whatever. Anyway. Big old frontline engagement. We've got nice engagement for the Corsairs getting into the Flagellants. They'll both kind of murder each other, but the Corsairs should get the better end of that engagement due to their armor and anti-infantry. Empire Knights also a little bit at risk from the Cold One Knights, but granted, the Cold One Knights are here to deal damage. The Empire Knights are primarily here just to hold stuff in place and also get some charges if possible. Sigmar's Son's rotating. Nice little bait and switch there with the infantry pulling the archers back. Sigmar's Son's getting the charge on the Witch Elves. It does look like the Witch Elves actually retargeted there at the last second, but Spears blocking up some of the Cold One Knights on the far side. Malekith getting in combat against the Demigryph Knights. They're going to pull back and away. They had come with Volkmar and just crumped this Corsair pretty hard. That had a good engagement against the Flagellants, so maybe not such a good engagement. Banishment going to be pumped out as well. Does get a little bit of those Cold One Knights, Empire Knights, Demigryph Knights well clear of that. Just the Flagellants at risk, and you know what? They're honestly down to get banished by Volkmar. You know, probably would like it. Anyway. Over here, though, the Sigmar's Sons and Swordsmen did get crumped pretty hard. I mean, they were able to hold back, but at the same time, beat those Witch Elves, but still get crumped by just Sad Swords and Corsairs. This 1 unit of Cold One Knights, though, great little surround, supporting Spearmen and Archers, kind of combined arms, Empire. Victory, defeat in detail. All the meanwhile, the guns placed on the hill. This is beautiful. Glorious. Outriders at the top, a little bit down from the slope there. We've got the Silver Bullets just absolutely wrecking shop in this range fight. Dark Riders having a very, very bad day. Dwellers Below even used over here just to really send a message, finish off some of those Dark Elf infantry. I actually didn't even realize. Yeah, Earthblood and Dwellers Below. Nice combination there. Heal the Cav Blob and, you know, eventually Bunker Bust a Blob as well. Like, especially Halberds, you know, come across some Blackguard. Would be a great opportunity to use that. Dark Elf player didn't actually bring any here, but this is a beautiful Empire victory. So thank you, Puggington. Thank you. Yeah. Beautiful stuff. A nice little Soul Stealer from Malekith. Malekith's completely healthy, it has to be said. No Dirty Lord sniping shenanigans here. Just Malekith not really able to do enough. I mean, he probably got his damage value, I would imagine, but yeah, maybe some Soul Stealers against the Demigryph Knights in that pocket there would have helped. Even still, I mean, Demigryph Knights can resist some of the damage if Volkmar is nearby, using that Shield of Faith in the counter, which is something that you should do in this matchup. You got to save those Shields of Faith for when the Soul Stealer inevitably goes after your Cav Blob. Yeah, it's good. The Feral Cold ones are good in a couple matchups. I do think High Elves, I like the pick against Greenskins too, actually, for specific units. Like, Black Orcs actually don't have that good of melee defense, so the Feral Cold ones, all they need to do is, like, get a good rear charge, right, on a unit of Black Orcs, and they'll pay for themselves basically instantly, right? So, I mean, there are specific units that you can think about where, you know, the Feral Cold ones can trade very cost-effectively, but generally their HP is really too low to do anything super useful. Like them against High Elves, though. I do like against potentially Greenskins. Dark Elves, too. Perhaps 1 or 2 units. Malekith being sad and edgy until the end. Yeah, I mean, he does pay for himself. But, GG, well played to both. It was a heck of a series. Very fun stuff. Yeah, nice Empire win to finish things off. Dark Elves had a little bit of a rough go. The Bolt Thrower is a good pick, though, and I would say for Riffle Shuffle, if you are watching or end up watching this at a later date, maybe go with more Bolt Throwers even. Like, maybe even say cut these Repeater Crossbows. They're almost the same as a Bolt Thrower, so I'm sure you could find a little bit of cost somewhere to just go with like 3 Bolt Throwers, even 4 Bolt Throwers. It's something that the Empire doesn't always prepare for against Dark Elves, and just in general, like, it's good against their artillery, it's good against their cav, it can be used against their skirmish units as well if you switch to anti-infantry and you have, you know, enough of a presence to actually get some damage done. But anyway, Puggington's side, Volkmar doesn't actually get all that much damage value, but just supporting this Empire engagement, and the Outriders both absolute MVPs. Demigryph Knights not actually doing a ton, surprises me, but the Silver Bullets, holy cow, 1664 damage value. So there's where real damage came from. It does make sense. I mean, like, these Slaanesha's Harvesters rely almost entirely on their physical resistance, so the magic bullets of the Silver Bullets would wreck them, and I'm pretty sure that's what happened there. Yeah. Well, this is a beautiful Empire game. Yeah, that is a matchup, Puggington, that you will, just because of the nature of the picks and bans, like, that is a matchup that you will play quite a bit, so I have some thoughts. I know, yeah, maybe we can run some tests later, but I'll send you some build ideas, and you can tell me what you think. Okay, so let's go to another one. We'll go to Baluk versus Santham. And I'm not familiar with either of these players, but this is a great series. So, Tomb Kings versus Greenskins to start. This is an interesting one, and this is one, depending on the Greenskins player, what factions you ban. Like, if from the Greenskins side, you most likely are going to ban Vampire Counts and either Lizardmen or Tomb Kings, kind of whichever you're less comfortable in. So as a result, you will see the flip side. Most people would prefer to ban Tomb Kings, and then that's why you see so many Lizardmen versus Greenskins games, is because, again, kind of the nature of the picks and bans. Greenskins are a good first pick faction because they have a lot of good matchups, so it kind of forces people into playing Lizardmen. This time, though, we've got Tomb Kings here. Let's have a look. We've got Ushabti Greatbows, 2 of them, Tomb Guard with Halberds, for a nice solid backline. Kepper Guard, decent here. There's no fire damage for Greenskins. That regeneration is no downside. Necropolis Knights, Skeleton Chariots. Queen Khalida leading said Necropolis Knights. I like the Khalida Light combination. It can be very, very good. Greenskins, 3 Goblin Rock Lobbers here. We've got some Night Goblin Archers, Rusty Heirs, Goblins, Orc Biggins, yeah, Night Goblins, Forest Goblin Spider Riders. Nice, kind of wide deployment. Couple of nasty Skulkers in sneak mode as well. They might be able to get back here, and the idea here with these guys is they get back, get on those Ushabti Greatbows. Ushabti Greatbows, 35 melee defense is actually okay. Skulkers only have 27 attack, even with 1 Chevron. If they can get this Opportunist Murder to proc, they'll go up significantly and they'll trade very well, but you kind of need like a Wah or Wurzag, you know, Bonewood Staff, or hit him with some kind of attack buff to even get that to start going off. We'll see though, might come in a little bit premature. If they get spotted, that's not good. They'll just get raffle stomped by these Skeleton Chariots, most likely. So far, so good though. Fast forward a little bit of these as these players kind of approach. The Rock Lobbers taking a nice hill position there. Going to open up on the Necropolis Knights. If they make contact, they actually will do a little bit of damage. It'll be cost effective enough to be worth it. You're leeching the Chariots as well. Decent idea with the Troll Hag. Kind of start to chew through some of those models. Doom King's Chariots don't actually have that much HP per model because there's so many in a unit. But anyway, we'll continue on. Rock Lobbers turn their attention to this infantry line. And yeah, the Ushabti, Chosen of the Gods, choosing to shoot goblins right now, I would think you'd want to pull up and try and counter-shoot these Rock Lobbers if you can. Or else, you know, yeah, like focusing here on these heroes would be a great idea as well. The River Troll Hag, I mean, not going to take a ton of damage there, but Pepper Guard have already lost a few models, which is not ideal, but potentially fine. Gonna get a Spirit Leech here on Khalida. See the Skulkers coming in from the back. They do get spotted. And the Chariot now moving in to intercept. I don't know if it actually has a charge order there. Meanwhile, Khalida is going to be moving in the front line. And Rage goes on her. She hasn't actually taken any hits or damage yet from the Fermented Fungi, but quick rear charge from the Goblin Big Boss should change that. Let's see. She's got the They Need Stabbing as well. She's down to only 12 melee defense. That is very, very brutal. But we've got Sandstorm coming in. No, Banishment, duh. Lore of Light, obviously. That being said, man, Khalida just got shredded there by that Greenskins Hero Squad. Took almost half her HP in damage. She's going to have to be very, very careful. And the Goblin Big Boss can follow her up with his poison. He's fast enough on his Spider. Not looking great for the Tomb King so far. They're starting to break through on certain fronts, but there's this whole other kind of separate backline engagement as well, where Smoke Bomb was used on the Skeleton Chariots. They came in, probably got some decent shock damage initially, but the nasty Skulkers were able to rally. Yeah, one of those units getting absolutely demolished. The Rock Lobbers, and this is something you can do. You see how the Rock Lobbers are now focusing the Ushabti Greatbows. This is kind of a secret hidden interaction in this matchup, is that mass Rock Lobbers actually are a counter for Ushabti Greatbows. You can see they are actually making consistent hits, which kind of makes, you know, Bretonnian Trebuchets look absolutely terrible in comparison, but let's not talk about that. Wah being popped, unfortunately, yeah. I don't know, does this constitute as line camping? Potentially. I don't actually think so. But, yeah, I mean, Necropolis Knights did get up and around, I guess, technically. But, the Khalida, still alive. If she can get a good engagement against this big boss, she could probably take him down, but it's going to be super risky just because she's so low on HP that he realistically only needs a hit or two to take her out. The armor debuff and the melee defense debuff come in, but nice route from Khalida there. The fear definitely coming into play. Yeah, the Necropolis Knights do actually make contact in the backline and break this entire missile pocket, so what was originally looking a little bit bleak for the Tomb Kings actually now not looking so bad. The Chariots are able to continue to operate here despite the smoke bombs. Doing a great job against these nasty Skulkers. Tomb Guard with Halberds also holding out. Not really an engagement they were meant for necessarily, but totally fine. Spirit Leech on Khalida though. That nasty Troll Hag, still very spiteful, and this character box of Tomb Kings could be potentially tough to deal with in the late game. The Kepler Guard, if they can save themselves, they do have anti-infantry and high enough weapon strength. They can punch Skarsnik, but if they get isolated and taken out by multiple targets, that's not great. So Necropolis Knights Coming to the rescue, the cavalry is here. The tailed hussars arrive. Yeah, not really sure. The fanged? The snake hussars? I don't know. You know what I mean. Now, this is a nice little kind of elite pocket. Skarsnik does use his Spite of the Bad Moon, so it looks like both units are going to attempt to peel out now. Maybe just play off these Shabti Great Bows. They still got quite a bit of ammunition left. 7 unit models as well, so they haven't lost too much stopping power. Yeah, I mean, the catapults are a counter to these Shabti Great Bows if you can keep them protected. But that's if you can keep them protected. The Greenskins player got a little bit kind of strung out here. Yeah. I mean, she can cause terror if she has Tomb Strike, but at this point, things have taken a turn for the worse for the Greenskins. A lot of their stuff just got immediately pushed off the side due to the positioning there. And, I mean, credit to this Lich Priest as well. 87 kills. I'm curious to see the value at the end on him. Chariot also just single-handedly destroying both of those nasty Skulkers, more or less. And, yeah, Kleda apparently went down when I was distracted. That's fine. Skarsnik and the Troll Hag should be going down anytime soon. I mean, usually Shabti Great Bows in particular have enough ammo. Spirit Leech on those Necropolis Knights, though. She's not going down without a fight. And the anti-infantry units taking a little bit of friendly fire here, unfortunately also crumbling. Also getting knocked around quite a bit by the Shabti Splash, so I don't know if they're actually getting any hits in here, but that's fine. Got some Skeleton Warriors on a bit of a rear charge. Oop. Attempted Vomit, looks like, or Skarsnik actually... No, does he have his Prada? Why? Why would you take the Prada? Oh, well. Nice victory for the Tomb Kings. Yeah, Khalida surviving that snipe attempt and coming back to do just enough win the day. 226 kills, 1200 damage value on that Skeleton Chariot defending the back line. Nice sneak attempt. I do like the sneak attempt from Santham here with those nasty Skulkers, but the Chariots definitely had something to say about that. Necropolis Knights also did a nice job screening some of these targets. There wasn't a lot of elite stuff. A lot of goblins here to go up against undead. And as a result, oh, there was a Tomb Guard there in the center. That makes a lot more sense. Kipper Guard also, I mean, they don't do a ton in terms of damage, but just moving up in the front line and getting the damage in. Yeah, Light Mage, pretty good damage as well with that Banishment. Very well placed. So again, we see Greenskins losing on leadership. Huh, that's interesting. Almost like their weakness as a faction is leadership. Anyway, moving on. Let's go ahead and get Dance and Warzag back up here. Move to the next replay between these two. Yes, of course. Sirtha Skell. Or Skeliek, or, you know, whatever you wanna. GG indeed. Let's take a look now. This time we've got Vampire Counts against Wood Elves. Potentially a tough matchup for Counts. A lot of people perceive all of the Elves matchups to be tough. We do have Orion Ariel combination here. It is a fairly small build though, and we've got Blade Singers, which is an interesting choice. I mean, I guess to go after Graveguard, I guess. 1 unit of Zotes, again, interesting choice. Winterheart Guard, Unbreakable, a couple of War Dancers as Azure Spirit. A bit of an odd build, I have to say, but Hagbane tips, a couple of Hagbane tips. Yeah, Ariel does have Tempest, of course, so, I mean, there's that, but this is a pretty heavy flying force. A Vampire Count's gone all in here, 4 Vargeis and a Vampire Lord. Really, just a straight-up, no bloodlines, no legendary... Dude, bro, Vampire Lord. No way. Wow. Very surprised, I have to say. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone take this guy in a tournament, like, ever, maybe. That's interesting. I mean, he's maybe a little bit cheap. He's got the Swarm of Flies on his Zombie Dragon. You know, it is a Zombie Dragon with Hunger, Invocation, Dance Macabre, and Raise Dead. So, I mean, I love his spell loadout. It's got Charmed Shield for damage resistance, too, which is pretty good, actually. Sword of Anti-Heroes, and he does come with Undeath Resurgent, which is not bad. I actually really like any lord that has access to Undeath Resurgent is actually pretty decent, because Vampire Count's units' stats are so terrible. When you can get that extra melee defense, help them grind it out even longer. It's pretty ideal. Yeah, Skeleton Warriors, we've got Double White King on foot with Scabscraft, very strong. The Tithe, ROR zombies. A Corpse Cart over there. A Corpse Cart over here. These are the 250 cost Corpse Carts as well. No AoE healing, but it is a regenerating meat bag that, again, gives a little bit extra stats to everything around. Like those Skeleton Warriors up to 24, 28. Not quite Empire State troops, but getting a little closer than they would be otherwise. Yeah, the Vampire Count hard counter, you would think. Let's see. I mean, let's see how Ariel does here. Well, Vampire Count's doing a really nice job on the approach, keeping the Mortis Engine away from any skirmish tools, which there are not a lot. I mean, just 2 Hagbane tips, really. And right now they're wasting a lot of their shots on zombies. They really got to conserve their ammunition to try and shoot the Mortis Engine once it moves into melee range. But the Vampires do have enough numbers to just go for a full surround here. They are going to YOLO in, though. White King just getting immediately rushed by everything in the world. Zotes, Orion, Ariel, just ground pounding this poor, hapless White King. So he's going to use the Scabscraft immediately on those Blade Singers, who are just absolutely destroying zombies. The Tithe, but, I mean, look at the Tithe, actually. They're holding out. They're not completely dead yet. 150 zombies to chew through. Tempest being used. This actually hits the Devils of Schwarzhofen, though, and not the Vampire Lord. Immediately they're going to drop down into combat, which, I mean, will do quite a bit of damage on the Devils of Schwarzhofen, but once the flying units are on the ground, you can't actually use the Tempest, so this massive nuke of Vargeist here is a lot of shock damage for squishy elves to deal with. And even the Zotes, you know, they're going to have a hard time here. More Dancers. Vampire Lord, double stacked. You can see there he had, just for a moment at least, the Undeath Resurgent and Dance Macabre Overcast active. Up to 78 attack on all these Vargeist here. 115... Oh, no, sorry, that's their speed. 87 attack, rather, for the Devils of Schwarzhofen there. Absolutely insane. 70 for these Vargeist. Sort of anti-heroes on himself, too. Puts him up to 650 weapon strength. So that nuke right there just absolutely eviscerates these Zotes, the War Dancers with Azrai Spear, everything that was supporting Orion and Ariel. And now you look at the rest of the battlefield and you're like, oh, hang on. There's like a few Tattered Elves, including some Blade Singers over here, getting kited by zombies and a Corpse Cart, which is just amazing. And then there's this blob, which Ariel and Orion have actually gotten separated. They're getting absolutely circle beaten by everything that the vampires can throw at them. So, yeah, the Vargeist nuke, who would have thought? Just spread them out a little bit there. And, you know, they can only Tempest one thing at a time. It's not really going to come down to the Mortis Engine at all, in fact. It mostly comes down to that big Alpha Strike with a nice Dance Macabre on the blob, and you just destroy them. And this is, I mean, the concept here itself is not necessarily rocket science to people who are, you know, kind of aware. I mean, all elves have relatively low HP, kind of as a general rule, right? So shock builds are actually very good against them, and that's true of any faction versus any of the 3 elf factions, more or less. Now, I typically go, from Vampire Count's perspective, I typically would go with a heavy cavalry rush, but Vargeist all in, you know, I mean, I do think if Wood Elves knew this was coming, they could prepare proper, you know, direct counter build, and it is going to take some time for these 2 to go down, so we'll go ahead and fast forward as they, you know, have their last dance. But, yeah, you can see how, especially once the White Kings come in, the Corpse Carts are also in. I mean, Mortis Engine's in. It's just bad. There's way too many single entities here for the Wood Elves to deal with. Orion's going to probably go down. Yeah, I mean, even if these Vargeist die, there's still more here, more zombies being summoned. And again, if Wood Elves knew this specific build is coming, I'm sure they could probably come up with something that can beat it. But sometimes, you know, you bring the right build. And this just so happened to be the right build. I mean, it does take some time, as I said. We've got a couple of Scab Scraths to go. Ariel is refusing to die. But the White Kings in particular, having this one in the late game with the Mortis engine, it's quite nice. I mean, the Corpse Cart, not a character Corpse Cart, so it doesn't actually have weapon strength like a single entity. But, yeah. Just having these two single entities, even with the Vargeist, does help quite a bit. Oh, valiant defeat indeed. Well played to both. The build almost ends up working just because these two are insanely, OP together, especially. 4,000 damage value on Orion, 2,000 on Ariel there. The Blade Singer's interesting choice. Don't even pay for themselves. I mean, it's pretty close, but War Dancers with Azrai Spears just about pay for themselves. The Zotes are probably the biggest downside here. The Hagbane tips, though, absolute MVPs in terms of damage output. It was pretty close at the end. Yeah, honestly, had they been able to do a little bit more damage throughout the course of the battle, it may have turned out differently, but that instant Alpha Strike, man, these Vargeists, only one of them really doesn't super pay out, but the other one's very impressive. Mortis Engine also, yeah, 3,000 damage value. You said it would come down to how much damage the Mortis Engine can do, and that's true to a degree, but I think actually a lot of this was potentially in that melee fight, because Mortis Engines do actually have anti-infantry, which I guess doesn't apply here, but they do have weapon strength. It's like 120 or something like that. White Kings, even the one that got completely gooned there, does pay for himself. Scab Scrath is an insanely strong item, so double White Kings, again, against low HP, makes a lot of sense. And, yeah, let's go ahead and get to it then. Next one. So, Game 3, who will take it home? We've got Dark Elves versus Skaven. And, well, let's have a look at the builds here. We've got 3 Scourge Runners, 2 Harpies, a couple of repeater crossbows, a couple of regular Dark Riders, 4 Sad Swords, 4 Fear Spears, some kind of Supreme Sorceress, and a single Corsair. Looks like 2 Mortars, Poison Wind and Avalanche, 2 Rat Ogres, a Council Guard in the back, a bunch of Chaff, 1 Clan Rats with shields in the center, Assassin, Snitch, and a Plague Priest, not on a Furnace, so no Terror, no, like, big single entities for... I guess no, there is Terror, in fact. A Brood Horror over here. Wolf Rats with Poison way out over there. Dark Elves take a nice spread approach. These Scourge Runner Chariots are going to be an interesting pick here. I actually do really like the pick against the Skaven. They come forward and use their hunting crossbows to hunt down some Wolf Rats. Missile damage will be enough to probably just straight up chew models, yeah. Despite the lack of anti-large applying in that situation. Mortars currently just bombing Sad Swords, which is fine. And yeah, same thing over here, that's totally fine. The spread does allow the Sad Swords to not all take too much damage at the same time. Although I can't help but think the Rat Ogres could probably come start cycle charging already, since they are so spread out. But Skaven deploying in a box, just content to sit in the box besides their mobile forces over here. The Brood Horror does intercept these Dark Riders. It's going to do some okay damage, but Dark Riders actually won't trade as badly as you might think, and especially with the repeater crossbows there to provide a little bit of supporting fire. Yeah, the Wolf Rats have actually eaten quite a bit of the ammunition of the Scourge Runner Chariots, which they don't have a ton. They have a good amount, but still relatively cheap unit to be using that on. Dark Elves now starting to attack the Harpies rushing in. Gonna fly in and occupy the Mortars. Great pick there. Try and stop them from firing while the main advance kind of makes it home. Chariot starting to charge through. Scourge Runners coming in. Flamestorm popped in the back line on these weapons teams. Also gonna do a bunch of damage to the Harpies as well. Maybe we'll run into those Clan Rats and some of those other units, but some nice chaotic disruption in the back line. Guess that answers what lore of magic it is. Burning Head, too. Nice Burning Head. Gonna hit those, I guess, just Skaven Slave Spears, but still, it helps rout them off, helps thin things out. Does actually contact the Avalanche Mortars, which the charge from this Dark Riders might be enough to actually rout them here. Great charge from those Dark Riders, and yeah, Avalanche Mortars, very expensive unit, eaten up already. That being said, the flank here is getting eaten up by Rat Ogres and, you know, other supporting units. Scourge Runners, though, have managed to pull Snitch, like, way out away from this formation. He is super out of position right now, very much in danger. Nice friendly fire here with those mortars. Definitely going to finish off the Sad Swords, Fear Spears in that particular area. But Scourge Runners still running on the loose over here, There's also this Brood Horror having a journey all its own out in the periphery against those repeater crossbows. But let's see. Shutting down some of the weapon teams early on is great, and a potential snipe of Snitch here would be devastating for the morale of Skaven. And oh man, jeez. I might need to excuse myself for a moment. That was an insanely good burning head. Wow, should have featured that one for the spell on my channel, but great usage of that. Gonna rout a whole bunch of the Skaven units. Where is that Supreme Sorceress? She's absolutely memeing right now. 139 kills. Snitch does get kind of caught out in the open here. You can see how the Dark Riders are trying to cycle charge him and then allow him to get shot by the crossbows. These other crossbows here just continuing to kite that Brood Horror, Benny Hill style. And the Skaven are starting to get thinned out a little bit here. A lot of the Dark Elf units, Power Spike active, obviously, with the Murderous Prowess, faring pretty decently. I mean, obviously the infantry not so much, but like getting the mortars to friendly fire the Council Guard is pretty ideal here, actually. Council Guard will take pretty significant damage from that, and Dark Elves don't have a lot of other great tools for dealing with them. Skaven are definitely still in this, though. I mean, Snitch, once he gets a hold of the Scourge Runner chariots, does just manually dismantle them. You know, jumps up on the wheel, like takes one of these spears, jams it in the giant, uni-wheel. I don't know. Imagine, however, Snitch very nimbly, I'd imagine, dismantles those. Yeah, a little bit more friendly fire on the Council Guard just to make sure the Harpies come in to then silence the mortars here, although the mortars were kind of doing Dark Elves a favor at that point. Rat Ogres here are going to get quickly routed by the Supreme Sorceress. She's not on a Manticore, but she is on a Pegasus. Dark Pegasus, 50 charge bonus. Dark Riders also, 40 charge bonus. Take care of some of those units in detail. Here, I don't think either of these units had a charge order on each other, which means I don't know exactly who's going to win, but Snitch is technically still alive here. I think these repeater crossbows are set to skirmish mode because they're going to go all skiwampus on the white line there and get caught by the Wolf Rats, but then the Wolf Rats are going to get rear charged by the Dark Riders, the other Dark Riders. So let's see what happens. Wolf Rats taking some damage. They're fine, though. Looks like they're going to be totally fine. Snitch pops his little AoE there, so still very, very close. Another Flamestorm going to be used. Interesting choice. I mean, it is going after summoned clan rats. But, yeah, I mean, I guess you don't really know what else to use it. Don't have Fireball, unfortunately, which I do think is a mistake. Fireball would have been amazing in this situation. It's pretty clear Dark Elves still have some Winds of Magic left to use. And Fireballs are really good against these Assassin-type characters because, again, low armor, high physical resistance. You get the armor, you get the Kindle Flame, rather, plus the magic damage. Just hit a lot harder. I mean, they honestly don't have that much HP at the end of the day. The Supreme Sorceress going to quick hit and run there. A little bit of cycle charge action. Chariots just cleaning through these supporting units. The Brood Horror is still here, though, and we've also still got a unit of Scourge Runners weighing the heck out there, so the Brood Horror might just come in and end this whole charade. It depends on if Snitch gets killed or routed. If he gets killed, I do think it's almost game over. If he actually manages to escape, though, and the Brood Horror can survive long enough for the debuff to wear off, it's not going to matter as much, but Snitch does indeed go... routes, I should say. Does he actually get killed? Let's try and watch in this absolute mess of absolute anarchy. Yeah. Yeah, we might see some Norska. Oh man, Snitch. I think he's gonna escape. He does indeed escape the battlefield. That could be a problem. The Assassin's also likely to go down here, though. But the last of the Skaven forces rallying to the cause here. This one unit of Scourge Runners has a tiny bit of ammunition left to potentially spend, but the Brood Horror is going to be a problem. The biggest thing is just surrounding it and getting cycle charges with the Supreme Sorceress, but Assassin's Trophy active on her right now. He also pops the Opal Amulet, but a nice little hit there on the Plague Priest. More Summoned Clan Rats, though, is a problem. Crows of Cain have a little bit of healing to try and sustain in this type of kind of a long, drag-out engagement, but did they actually have a charge order there? If the Scourge Runners had a charge, they would probably have beat those Rat Ogres, but I actually don't think they did. It might just beat them anyway. A weird engagement. Nice. Burning Head one more time. Unfortunately, the Supreme Sorceress did just take a bunch of damage there, though, from the Assassin and the Plague Priest, and that's basically it for the Dark Elves. They were looking pretty good there. Skaven managing to bring it back. And, yeah, despite Snitch getting routed, the Assassin cleans up the job, you know, as is typical. When Manager goes home, it's up to workers on the ground to end it, right? Great job, great series between these two. GG to both players. Super down to the wire there at the end. And despite getting Raffle Stomped for the most part, Poison Winds, regular ones, managed to get a ton of value. Avalanche Mortars, not so great. Same thing with the Storm Vermin there. The Brood Horror, despite the fact it was literally just chasing Skirmish Cav the whole time, the fact it was still a presence in the late game did end up mattering. One unit of Rat Ogres as well, doing a pretty good job. Wolf Rats, despite getting all that damage from the Scourge Runner Chariots, they still paid for themselves, which is why I think the Scourge Runners, maybe you just try and save your ammunition for, again, Brood Horror or Rat Ogres. Plague Priest does a great job summoning here. Yeah, the Assassin finishing. Look at the Supreme Sorceress, though. 245 kills, 1600 damage value. Absolutely great. Bleak Swords, Sad Swords getting wrecked by mortars for the most part. Same thing with the Spears, although a couple of the units, you know, getting good engagements. Light Cav, though. I almost wonder you just maybe thin this infantry out a little bit and take even more Dark Riders. Both the Repeater Crossbows and the melee variety. The Scourge Runners are a great pick. Maybe even one more of them. Well, just go with a little less infantry. I don't know. I do like the Harpies, too. They come in and occupy those weapons teams. Can actually do some good damage to the right targets as well. Whoops. Pay no attention to the screen there. Anyway, let me get Dancing Warzak back up here. And we'll go to the next series. This one here is one that I actually did not watch beforehand, so I don't know actually how the games are. These might be a little one-sided. I haven't had the chance to review this, but I guess I'm already kind of spoiling things. Anyway, the man, the myth, the legend, Onjaga, Astalon, Onjaga played back in the day. It hasn't been so active much in the past year or two, but definitely a good player from what I remember. Yeah. He's up against Lizardmen here as Greenskins. We've got Skin Cohort with Jabs, a couple Chameleons, a couple of Jabs, some Spear Riders, Mazdamundi, and a Thunderous one. Yeah, mortars single-handedly make it dangerous to bring any infantry. That's basically true, Puggington. My cat needs something. Yes. Anyway, got Bob here, some Stone Trolls, River Troll Hag, Skarsnik, Boar Boy Biggins, Savage Orc Biggins. Pretty straightforward build, Spider Rider Archers. Let's see, both players kind of bringing builds along the lines of what you would expect in terms of the quote-unquote meta. Zlok and the Thunderous one. Yeah, this is a very strong... I mean, Mazdamundi and the Ancient Steg, even before the Thunderous one came out as an ROR, this was a combo that was seen frequently against the Greenskins even before, and the Thunderous one is just a better Ancient Stegodon, so... yeah. Let's see how it does here. Bob Double Stone Troll is also, again, pretty common. Kind of just comes down to the engagements. These Savage Orc Biggins getting screened nicely so far by the Goblins. Goblins are eating the majority of the Javelins and so on there, which is exactly what you want. You don't want the Savages, certainly, to be eating those in the face. But Rush is on. Boy is going to get into contact here. Actually get a nice little countercharge with the cohort of Sotek. They will get ground pounded, there's no question about that. Nice banishment, though, going after this unit of Savage Biggins, and they do now get teed off on by all this ranged potential here. Cold One Spear Riders swinging up and looking to push away the Skirmish Cavalry there, while the Greenskins Skirmish Cav, a little bit late to the party, still could come in, though. Even potentially use them against... Oh, man. Oh, that's nasty, though. That whatever it's called. Ruination of Cities. Great for Cast of the Fanatics. A little bit late on the Skink cohort. Could have potentially got them before they got their Javelins, but it does more or less finish that one unit. But with these guys on the side here going down, the Stone Trolls are now going to get netted, and the Cold One Spear Riders are a great counter for them with that anti-large armor piercing damage, so that's pretty rough. Other flank is collapsing pretty heavily. It's a lot of skinks, but the Thunderous one is also caught right now by Bob, Skarsnik, and the Stone Trolls. One unit here, the Orc Boar Biggins. If they can get a rear charge on these Cold One Spear Riders, or just get any kind of a good engagement against them, could start to turn things around a little bit here. But the Monstrous Presence, oh man, Mazdamundi getting a nice counter charge here. Boar Biggins, they do filter through somewhat, while now being popped as well. They get immune to Psychology, so not vulnerable, being terror routed anytime soon. They do actually contact the Spear Riders on that charge. Not maybe as much damage as they would have hoped for, but yeah, Spider Riders eventually do come through. They're going to go after the Chameleon Skinks in melee, especially with Wa active. This is absolutely the right call to make. And Fungi gets used on the Thunderous one here, getting absolutely shredded. Pop Shield of the Old Ones to try and bail it out, but Spirit Leech also being used, just really sealing the deal. The Thunderous one probably got some good damage in before that, but a brutal situation there. Biggins getting into corner contact with the Skink cohorts. Mazdamundi manages to bail out his Chameleons, though. That could be pretty important. These Stone Trolls are not too happy about life in general. Well, maybe they're a little happy about it, starting to recover their leadership somewhat. But the Cold One Spear Riders managed to make it through the Goblins, and actually a few contact here on the charge, and you can see the Stone Trolls do take a bit of damage from that. It's enough to rout them off, along with everything else. Nice net from Mazdamundi. Catches the Hero Blob, all of them. Granted, quite a bit of Wind's Magic to spend, and there's not really a lot of direct counterpunch, but even just to hold them in place, allow the Thunderous one to get away, a little bit of Apotheosis, healing, so potentially a recoverable situation for the Lizardmen here, although the Greenskins definitely punching hard. Stone Trolls, you can see, just pushing up and around, trying to regenerate a little bit of HP before they come back fight, so they are not, you know, so low leadership, but even just coming close to these Chameleon Skinks, they're just not happy. So, yeah, Thunderous one staying alive for now. Mither is used, and here comes the Hag. Will she actually get the finishing blow? If she can come in and finish this thing, that would be pretty decisive. Not even a rout, though. Yes, it does rout. 600 HP. Cohorts come in to screen. Another Apotheosis. Thunderous one might rout off the side there, but potentially might come back. Wow, this is a really good game. I'm glad I decided to cast this one. Very back and forth. Cold One Spear Riders pushing these units away. They're trying to keep this whole block routed, but the Chameleons really are needed back in the center pocket as much as possible. They're going to peel, and that will allow a lot of these troops to potentially come back. I might even lose the Cold One Spear Riders there. Skarsnik, Bob, and the River Troll Hag, too, are all basically completely healthy, whereas the Lizardmen, single entities, same can't be said of them. 300 HP, just barely hanging on for the Thunderous one. Good old Thundy. Thunderbuns. But, oh man, Chameleon Skinks just about getting caught in a trap by Goblins there, and it looks like they will, in fact, actually get caught by the 8-Peak Loons, the one unit there, this other unit of Goblins as well. They go into MLG column formation. Nice Spirit Leech to finish off the Thunderous one. It did get one more Apotheosis, so both players kind of just trading Winds of Magic back and forth, more or less. But it does come out in favor of the Greenskins in the end, because the net result is the Thunderous one routing off the side and getting even lower. Yeah, went from about 300 to about 200 HP with that exchange of spells. Cold One Spear Riders going after the Stone Trolls. The infantry trying their best to screen, and actually they do proc the Enrage there for the Cold One Spear Riders. Unfortunate, as the Biggins should be able to finish them off. At the same time, though, they're getting some friendly fire leadership penalties from the Force Goblin Spider Riders there, and actually do get terrified by Mazdamundi, while at the same time routing the Spear Riders. So somehow everyone wins in that particular engagement. But man, still very, very close. Greenskins in a commanding position at this point, but we're going to fast forward a little bit, as there's going to be a lot of chasing, routing troops, I would imagine, on both sides as much as possible. There's still this dense block, though, with the infantry here. Handful of Biggins, you know, some others. Characters, of course. So, yeah, eventually they're going to try and reunify. Spider Riders still doing a little bit of skirmishing. They actually forced the Spear Riders into an Enrage there. And you can see the this unit of Stone Trolls, the unit of Boar Biggins, was able to kind of wheel around the formation, and they're now more or less formed up in support of the infantry component, right? So, long endgame here. Lizardmen are going to be trying their best to eke out a win, but things are looking pretty grim. Potentially with a big leadership bomb if they could terror out things, but of course Bob's perfectly healthy as long as he's at the center of attention, and he can provide that immune to psychology. So the engagement begins with the Chameleon Skinks, believe it or not, does result with a net on these Stone Trolls. Mazdamundi's charging in, but he's immediately met by all three Greenskins characters. Yeah. That Ruination of Cities in particular, I mean, wasn't a lot of great potential for it to do good things, but didn't result in all that much. Yeah, the Boar Riders, the Lizard Riders, let's just appreciate this is a fun engagement. Two anti-large AP cavalry, heavy cavalry, just duking it out. Basically finishing each other off, more or less. It's always a good time. Mazdamundi trying to avoid taking too much damage here, but once all his support troops are gone, he is going to have to fight in melee. And the result is clear. Fungi is used, and a victory for the Greenskins. So the Greenskins not losing the leadership this time, but in fact winning. And yeah, very well played on Jaga there. Nice job by Mazdamundi, and the Lizards as well from Astalon. Chameleon Skinks, some pay, some do not pay. Thunderous one doesn't quite pay, but still some good damage. The Cold One Spear Riders, surprisingly, I thought they would have got a little bit more damage value. The one just about pays for itself, but they are a potential good counter for the Stone Trolls, which, I mean, I guess one of them did get countered, so there's that. Other Stone Troll managed to get some good work in. Mangy Marauders, excellent value pick here. Armor-piercing missiles, the poison missiles also paying for themselves, plus poison. Always nice. 8-peak loons, great job. The Goblins trading decently. A lot of it comes down to the Hero Squad, though, and the River Troll Hag, especially this time, MVP with the Spirit Leeches, very much on top of that, and also using her as a combatant. Mazdamundi, like I said, great job there. Lizards, the cohorts also all do a great job. Chameleons, too. I mean, it was just a great battle. Really nice back and forth. So I do have another game between these two, and possibly one more, depending on if Astalon can bring it back. But let's take a look. Bob is the point of focus, and that's what we saw from Huggington's Lizardmen, right? Is you use Hand of the Gods on Bob. Try and get rid of him early. Let's see, Aslan now going for the Dwarfs on Jaga for Warriors of Chaos, and a beautiful Warriors of Chaos build at that too. He's got Swords of Chaos, Hell Cannon, spam of Great Weapon Infantry between, you know, Marauders and Warriors with Great Weapons, a single Sword and Shield Marauder, or Sword and Axe, yes, Shield and Axe, you know what I mean. It's Arthur Rail, just with Final Transmutation, and a Gore Beast Chariot, along with, yeah, Swords of Chaos. So wild build, very, very wild build. I love it, though. On the flip side, we've got a couple of Brimstone guns, which have no response. They're going to be able to come in here and probably snipe that Hell Cannon very quickly. Rune Lord, Thunderers, you know, typical range contingent Thunderers, Rangers, Slayers, including the Dragonbacks, Dwarf Warriors, and Miners with charges up front. A lot depends on these charges here, but already I'm thinking the infantry composition of Chaos. I mean, just the spam of great weapons, like, Marauder great weapons actually trade very cost effectively with Dwarf Warriors and Miners. Both. I mean, obviously a lot depends on the charges, if they can get good volleys of charges, but like here, using it on the Axe and Shield Marauder, maybe not the best. This one, even still though, the loose formation does mean that they're not going to eat as much damage from the charges. They get in here mostly unopposed. Okay, somewhat opposed. But yeah, you can already see the result. Even these Longbeards taking some pretty significant damage there. Maybe had taken some damage from the Hell Cannon already. Hell Cannon is down to the Gyros, but Gyros now need to swing up and around and hit the Warbeast Chariots and Swords of Chaos. Very imminent threat. Slayers are ready to meet. Also going to try and potentially pin Big Bird in with Rune of Wrath and Ruin. Dragonback Slayers actually don't make contact with him, though, to get the full effect of the speed debuff. And the second line of Great Weapon Infantry is now arrived, more or less untouched. And, I mean, this is the Warriors, right, who are going to do a lot better than the Marauders. A nice Final Transmutation on this Blob, too. There was no artillery, which is, I'd imagine, why Onjaga brought Final Transmutation. But a juicy enough Blob offers itself up. You might as well take advantage. Both of these low-tier infantry going to rout as a result, and the Dragonback Slayers in particular, a nice high-value unit to go after. Yeah, Marauders cleaning up there with the Warriors, and yes, Dwarf's not going to give up easily, obviously. There's still quite a few Slayers in these ranged units, but the back line being compromised, and the front line just been crumped super hard. You can see the Warriors of Chaos already streaming over the top of the slope there, getting a downhill engagement against these missiles. The one issue, too, is because of the slope, like, the guns haven't been able to actually fire very efficiently here. And so now just getting inundated by all of this stuff. Let's see, can the Gyros pull it back? Swords of Chaos taking a little bit of damage here. But the Gorbeast, man, I love Gorbeast Chariots. Someone once said in my comment, somewhat recently in my comment section, like, oh, Chariots in Warhammer are so dumb. Like, why would you ever have Chariots when you can have Cavalry? Well, if you can convince this, like, Chaos Gorilla thing to pull your Chariot and also punch dudes in the face, yeah, maybe Chariots actually would still work. Besides, it's a fantasy game. Come on, it's awesome. Can't say it's not awesome. Swords of Chaos with their little ponies, their little My Little Chaos ponies. Trying to survive. They are getting focused by the Gyros, but that's fine. That means the Gyros aren't really focusing anything else. And I mean, granted, it is a very high value target, but basically everything is a threat here in this build, right? Which is why I'm a huge fan of this build. Literally every single unit, I mean, except arguably this one unit here, is threatening to the Dwarfs, right? So they kind of have to deal with everything at the same time. And do they have the tools to deal with everything at the same time? Tough to say. So this series will go 2-0 to Onjaga, and some nice games. Actually, I hadn't watched those beforehand, but it turned out pretty good. The one first game was super, super close. The second one, a little bit less so, but I'm a huge fan of this build. Nice to see Swords of Chaos, Warbeast Chariot, My Little Heresy. Yeah. Fun stuff. Fun stuff. Let's see here. Dwarf side, this front line, yeah, the blasting charges don't quite do enough to pay for themselves. Dwarf Warriors, yeah, kind of the same thing. Longbeard's even worse. The Slayers do a lot, and I almost think you can just go with a spam of Slayers in this matchup. The ranged units also, again, fully compromised, didn't really have good shooting lanes there, besides the Gyros, which obviously do pay for themselves. Yeah, for Onjaga, like I said, basically everything in this build is a threat, which is why I'm a huge fan. Marauders with great weapons all paying for themselves, more or less. Chaos Warriors, only a couple even need to pay for themselves, but Gorebeast doing some work, not even, again, getting its value back, but the pure disruption, shock damage. Good stuff. Yeah. Yeah, the Gorebeast Chariot is very, very good here. I do think you need Grombrindle to help counter Gorebeast Chariots with the Smoke Bomb and the melee defense debuff. You can tear them away pretty quickly. I'm not that big of a fan of the Rune Lord, honestly. He doesn't offer that much upside, considering how good the other Dwarf Lords are in melee now. Like, maybe not good, but at least resilient. I wouldn't take him. But anyway. Let's go to the next series. We're going to go back to Riffle Shuffle again. This time, his opponent, Hansum Gandalf. So, Greenskins versus Lizardmen. Again, who would have thought? Like I said, there's a reason you see this matchup so much. It is a very, very common one because of the nature of the pick and ban system. Typically ban, Tomb Kings, Vampire counts, and your opponent counterpicks with Lizardmen. So, honestly, I do think it's a pretty even matchup. Like, a lot of people will counterpick Greenskins with Lizardmen, and it makes sense why, but at the same time, I don't know if that's necessarily, like, Greenskins have a lot of really good tools in this matchup as well. They are the only faction that can counter Fungi, but then you bring Sigvald and Gromby Cries. Yeah. Belagar. Belagar is pretty good here. Belagar is pretty good here in Chaos, I should say. But anyway. Got, this time, Chameleon Skinks, regular Ancient Stegodon and Mazdamundi, Skink Chief, some Saurus Warriors with shields, 4 of them, Red Crests, and another Saurus Warrior there. Pterodon Riders, bunch of Chameleon Skinks. This massive cavalry force, Orc Boy Biggins, Spider Riders, got regular Orc Boys, Fanatics, typical hero squad, River Troll Hag. This time, instead of Bob, we got the Big Boss, the GBB, or Gibbs, as I'll probably call him. Good old Gibbs and Skarsnik. Single Black Orc there, Biggins. Yeah, Rusty Air's Air Boys. Pretty typical stuff. Big old center strike by Mazdamundi, trying to line break. He does do some really nice damage to the Night Goblin Fanatics, who it does look like probably got their Fanatics cast off through those Saurus. Did a little bit of damage, nothing to write home about, but these Fanatics here, again, same thing. They do a little bit of damage to Saurus, but Saurus have just enough armor and mass that it kind of doesn't affect them as much. But Mazdamundi now getting Spirit Leeched. Skarsnik going to be potentially fighting him in the center. A little bit of machine gun action from the Ancient Stegodon, just chilling back. Probably wants to go forward, though, and support this melee engagement. Black Orcs getting stepped on by Mazdamundi. Does open him up to lots of fire from the Rusty Airs. He did use Harmonic Convergence on himself briefly. He's now going to charge the River Troll Hag, try and get some damage in there. But yeah, the Pterodons came down in a little bit of a pitch charge to try and occupy the Air Boys. Still got eaten up by Biggins and Fanatics, though, so that's potentially a little rough. The Saurus here also getting rear charged by Orc Boar Boy Biggins. 50 charge bonus, pretty decent AP values. Just damage overall. Wad now being popped as well, up to 40 weapon strength in total there for those Boar Cav. Both the Stegodons in melee now. The Black Orcs and Biggins still fighting. Black Orcs definitely taking a pounding, but they're still fighting. They've got Spite of the Bad Moon on top of Wah, so if they did get any hits during that time, it was probably pretty impactful. But yeah, the Red Crest also still hanging around. Cohort of Sotek continuing to apply a little bit of chip damage here and there. More Fanatics being used on the Saurus Warriors to their great detriment, as the Biggins and the Fanatics there routing them off. Skink Bro is getting tied up by some Spider Riders, so he's not able to lead the Chameleon Skinks to victory. And yeah, things are looking like a quick victory this time for the Greenskins. So we've seen this matchup now, I think 50-50. Seen, what, 2 Greenskins wins, 2 Lizardmen wins? And it is a matchup I do think that can go either way. This build in particular was pretty good. So, yeah, rough outing by Consum. Let's see if he can bring it back in the second game. Riffle Shuffle, Raffle Stoffel, I should say, in this matchup. Anyway, we'll move on before I make too many more bad puns. But in case you're wondering about damage value, it's more or less as you would expect. Troll Hag does a great job. Borcav do decently. All of the skirmish tools getting a lot of damage in. Arrow Boys, Rusty Airs. Black Orcs also actually paying for themselves despite getting heinously stepped on by 2 Ancient Stegodons, which, or Mazdamundi and an Ancient Steg, neither of which pay for themselves. The Saurus also kind of rough. Yeah, it's just not, maybe not the greatest for the Lizardmen there, but let's get to next replay. Some Gandalf going to Empire this time to face off against Warriors of Chaos. The classic matchup. Karl Franz going to be leading the way against Big Bird. Immediately, these Pistoliers are in trouble, as Pistoliers often are. Royal Althorfer fights might try and come bail them out, but this is a very heavy ranged contingent here. They definitely don't want to... Yeah, they do manage to actually save the Pistoliers, so good job. At least screen them momentarily. Grenade launchers moving forward. We got this Jade Wizard, bunch of Chaos Warhounds over on the side, Big Bird, Feral Manticore, Chaos Marauders, and Warriors with Quarry Weapons. We've got the one Halberd as well. On the Empire side, besides Karl, Althorf Griffites and the Outriders and Pistoliers, a bunch of state troops, one Great Sword, and the Sigmar Sons. So, it's a build, as they say. Okay. The Jade Wizard taking some pretty significant skirmish, though. These Marauder Javs just going all in, happy Javelin Day to Jade Wizard. But a nice hit-and-run charge also. Looks like some Empire Knights over here. Outriders and Pistoliers pull up and start to whittle away at the flanks of this unit of Warriors with Halberds. So a nice mobile force starting to break the Warriors of Chaos up a little bit here. They're going to respond with some of these throwing axes, which is fine. Yeah, Outriders can pull away there. Try and wheel around and get a nice concave surround of gunpowder fire. Meanwhile, Pistoliers moving up over here. Potentially going to screen these hounds out a little bit. The Altdorf Griffites, if they can get a quick charge, would obviously terrify them away, but it's not necessarily a super efficient engagement for them. 41 attack, 48 charge. Actually not... I mean, it will crump hounds, don't get me wrong, but as far as shot cavalry goes, it's not actually that good. Mostly there for the anti-large bonus, right? Speaking of anti-large bonus, Karl flying around. Danger close to the Manticore. He could also eat a Plague of Rust here and then eat a bunch of javelins, so he's got to be careful of where he uses to engage, but this one Halberd kind of left out to dry here. Grenade launchers getting started. Picking away at this one Marauder here. Empire Infantry starting to come up and screen, and Altdorf Griffites partner with Karl. Hit and run on these Marauders there, and Marauders already just big sad. Looks like, ooh, the final transmutation does actually catch Demigryph Knights, but immediately a regrowth being used in response there, and they run out of the area of effect, so it stops affecting them. Maybe. But, yeah, they didn't take much damage at all from that, and that's just fine. That regrowth should top them up. Empire Knights also collapsing this flank. You can see this Marauder just died to this cavalcade of fire, and these Outriders and Pistoliers managed to turn the corner and just set up some beautiful positioning here, mowing down the foul forces of Chaos. Look at this. Look at these firing lanes. Grenade launchers, too, providing a little bit of fireworks. And this Chaos force of cavalry and infantry just melting under withering fire here. Empire Knights choosing to come forward. Finish the job on the charge. Maybe. A little bit of a quick hit-and-run feint actually pulls the Halberds back away momentarily. Meanwhile, Karl's just coming in here for piecemeal engagement. Sigmar Sons came out and forward. They're going to duel some Marauders here as Karl duels a Manticore. Manticore actually says, maybe I don't want to duel. Maybe I want to get rear charged instead. Karl, now Plague of Rust. Perhaps the tables will turn. Pops all of his stuff. Sigmar Sons up to 65-70. Karl 80-67 with anti-large. And yeah, the Sigmar Sons actually hold out very admirably during this time, and Karl manages not to get deaded by the Manticore. Granted, it's enraged, but still. Big Bird's also no slouch of a combatant with all this going on here. But Karl going to pull up and away. The Altdorf Griffites move in, do the dirty work, taking down this demon. Nice little pocket been formed up by the Warriors of Chaos, but this massive force of skirmish cavalry still completely healthy, and the grenade launchers in particular are going to be quite brutal here. A tiny bit of friendly fire on that one Empire Knight. He's like, yo, bro, come on. Didn't actually hurt him too bad, I don't think, so he's fine. But yeah, that little blob of great weapon Chaos Warriors just getting blasted right now. Very, very brutal stuff. Karl's doing fine. A lot of it comes down to, you know, there's some Warriors of Chaos, literally Chaos Warrior infantry left, Some Horse Masters back here that managed to hang on. Some rallying stuff as well could be used to potentially come back. This concentrated fire from the Empire, combined with the nice hit-and-run charges from Karl and the Knights. Supporting infantry, very classic Empire victory here. At least, I am calling it a little bit early. Balance power heavily in Empire's favor, but I just don't really see a great way for Warriors of Chaos to come back. Still so many imminent threats. I mean, Karl's getting lower, but probably still healing left. Be able to heal him. The Jade Wizard is also, again, wounded, but not quite finished. So Altdorf Graphite screening the Horse Masters there and pulling back away. I'll take some damage, but 125 armor is very good, so won't take too much damage. Pistoliers and Empire Knights being used to chase routing units. Absolutely beautiful. Karl going to get a regrowth. And Stand Your Ground being used to buff up the defense of all these units. Spearmen trading cost effectively both against Big Bird and the Manticore if they can get him to stay still for a second. Also got the Altdorf Graphite still fighting here, of course. Melee defense definitely helps them. Their melee defense is not great for the cost, has to be said. Yeah, beautiful. His running animation is so cute. It is hilarious. Yeah, they're all trying to get Franz, but in fact the tables turned, and the Empire Skirmish Cav actually carries the day pretty significantly here in terms of just melting that infantry force. This one sad halberd. Tactical reserve not going to get there in time as Big Bird takes too much damage, actually gets killed, and that's army losses. So a very nice game by both players, I have to say. Great job to Consum Gandalf there with that big old Skirmish Cav force, Pistoliers, Outriders, and Grenade Launchers all doing a fantastic job on damage output. Beautiful Pistolier play, have to say. For Riffle Shuffle, all things considered, he did pretty well. I mean, a little bit of a tough row of it. He did have more mobility, so maybe the engagements he got were not amazing, but credit to Consum Gandalf kind of getting him off balance and baiting out some of those engagements. The Royal Altdorf Graphites didn't do too much, so I guess some of this mobility force did its job in managing them, but unfortunately it really allowed these Outriders and, Pistoliers to do a lot of work. Hounds, both, I mean, not both. One had a bad time. The other one actually did pretty decent. But, yeah, I think just a little bit light cavalry micro in this build probably still has the tools you need to win at the end of the day. The Horse Masters did a really nice job staying alive into the late game. But, yeah, the healing on Franz is pretty strong. He doesn't have that much HP base, but he does good damage here as well. Great swords don't really have to do a lot. Not really a lot of elite infantry for them to fight, because it all got shot to death. Anyway, whoops. Don't look at that. We'll go ahead and put Warzak back up here. And go to the next replay. Thank you all for coming out, guys. Got 173 watching. Wow. That's awesome. You guys are great. Got a few more replays to get through, a couple more series, and then I'll take a look and record. Oh no, this is the one we already saw. My apologies. So Consum Gandalf comes back in pretty convincing fashion on that one. Let's see who can take game 3 from these two. Oh, that's the wrong one too. IR streamer. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, Pterodons are pretty good, honestly. But they're not... I mean, they'll carry you in numbers, but not... At the same time, kind of not, you know? Anyway. Wood Elves versus Bretonnia. Yes, a final of Wood Elves versus Bretonnia, which is not such a bad matchup for the Wood Elves as it used to be. Interesting builds here, I have to say. I'm not 100% certain about this Wood Elf build. You don't have any Zotes, or any trees, or any Way Watchers. It is a lot of anti-large infantry, a lot of Eternal Guards with shields, just regular Glade Guard. Sisters of Twilight do provide some armor sundering, so that lack of AP, not so much of an issue. Couple Hagbane tips here to provide poison. Couple Glade Riders with spears. Chase units off. Bane Enchantress, of course, who else would it be? Double Paladin, one on the ground, one in the air. We've got Ox Arrows, Holy Wardens of La Maisenthal, Knights of the Lion-Hearted, and Knights of the Realm. Depends on the Fleur-de-Lis, some more Knights of the Realm. So 4 Knights of the Realm plus the RO, including the ROR rather, and plus ROR Knights Errant, some mobs, men-at-arms up front. Pretty basic stuff. So yeah, I'm just concerned about a general lack of mass in this high elf build, and don't get me wrong, Eternal Guard are okay here, but they really don't trade cost effectively against infantry of Bretonnia. They will obviously against knights, but sister shooting happening, going after the paladin off the get-go. I mean, that is definitely a play. The paladin will threaten the sisters, but also there's a school of thought that if you're using that against the cavalry, you're actually chewing models away. Or you can't obviously do that to the paladin. He's just one model. So, peasant archers kind of trading right now with the glade guards, mostly fine. Awakening of the Wood, going to try and stop up some of these units, and a nice countercharge in here from these Wild Hunters of Kurnos. You can see that with the speed debuffed there, they are going to get in and get some pretty good punch against the defenders and some of these other units here. A little bit of armor sundering as well. Didn't actually make contact with them, unfortunately, but this unit of Wild Riders, very brave, charges in, gets countercharged immediately by all the Knights of the Realm, and gets crumped pretty hard, healing Earthblood for the Wood Elves. Wild Riders still just taking a heinous amount of damage. That being said, this backline of archers gets completely broken by the Glade Riders, which is obviously very important. If the Wood Elves are going to win this one, they definitely need to not get shot by cost-effective peasant archers. But on the flip side, Bretonnian cavalry also heavily compromising the Glade Guard, so both players going after each other's ranged contingents. The Paladin also chasing around the sisters in the air. The Paladin, in his charge animation, will be fast enough to catch up. He is technically 5 speed slower, but if he can get close enough to hit that charge animation, probably will be able to catch them. Hard to say. Another Earthblood being used, this time for Bretonnia. Bit of healing on those knights there, and the Wood Elves respond with their own. Wild Hunters of Kurnos took a lot of damage already, though. That's a pretty expensive unit to have taken so much damage. This box of knights all of a sudden is a little bit isolated here. They're kind of surrounded on all sides by either anti-large infantry. They've got this light cavalry here. Of course, they can easily break through this light cavalry, and that's what they choose to do. At least these defenders here and the, yeah, mostly just the defenders. Knights of the Realm actually swinging into the front line, getting a nice kind of side charge on these Eternal Guard here that the Fey Enchantress are fighting, trying to bail her out. She's draining them, and of course, getting charged by a bunch of knights is never fun either. So yeah, you can see the defenders just screening those Blade Riders out. They actually do get the charge. Great cost-effective charge for the defenders. 58 charge bonus on them is really good for a cav that's that cheap. Yeah, Knights of the Realm, regrowth on them. Interesting choice to use the regrowth on a unit. Again, not super expensive, but at the same time, they've still got 35 unit models left, and the Vigor refresh in particular means they're going to be functioning at full strength in terms of, you know, armor and speed and everything else, which can be pretty critical. The rest of these knights are starting to get tired. I guess there's not that much of a difference yet, but yeah, the Wood Elves, while it initially looked pretty good with that little counterattack there, things are sort of starting to fall apart. They are securing some of this backline area, and the peasant archers are more or less dealt with. The sisters also defeat this one paladin here, so it's not all bad, but balance of power starts to take a turn as, like, the wild hunters get surrounded by the knights here, and the defenders of the, not the defenders, rather, Knights Lionhearted in particular with their magic damage will do a great job. They're kind of like discount Grail Knights, right? Nice countercharge onto those Glade Riders. Some fun cav engagements here, but, I mean, fun cav engagements. Maybe not so fun if you're engaging against Bretonnia, because they're very likely to win any cavalry engagement, right? Cav on cav. Yeah, Fey Enchantress bullying this Branch Wraith here, and balance of power very quickly sliding out of reach for the Wood Elves. So, nice series back and forth. Excuse me, I do have to say the Wood Elves here, I do question some of the army picks in this last one. I think definitely you want Zotes in this matchup pretty much always, and yeah, they can bring some counters to Zotes. It's still going to be tough. The Zotes don't really help you kill the Fey Enchantress, but I actually think maybe Zotes, like Blade Captain, maybe even Zotes double Blade Captain. I actually really like the Glade Captains here. Great Stag Mount in particular is pretty good. A decent amount of HP, anti-large AP. And it's a single entity that can be somewhat tough for Bretonnia to kill, but more importantly, they can do good damage to the Fey Enchantress. But once again, going to regrowth some Knights of the Realm here. Uh-oh, looks like my connection went down a little bit. Hopefully we're not dropping too many frames. Come on. Yes, came back just at the right time, true, and my internet decided to start acting up just at the right time, so apologies about that, guys. I might need to restart the stream, actually, but we'll see. We'll see if it stabilizes. Let's take a look here. Yeah, GG, another great series. Yeah, sad day for Riffle Shuffle. Lost 2 very close best-of-3 series, and I've definitely been there, so feel for you for sure. But decent build. Like I said, no Zotes is potentially a mistake, a little bit light on mass, but there is plenty of width, which is nice. Yeah. Okay, it looks like the stream is recovered now in terms of output, so that's good. Yeah, Eternal Guards actually do punch upward really nicely, and one of them actually over 1,000 damage value, 1201 damage value for an Eternal Guard is fantastic. Punching those Knights. Glade Guards also, they're not too expensive, you don't need them to do a ton. The issue really was these 2 Wild Riders not really paying out. I honestly think even if you replace them with Treekin, that might be better here. Treekin, they'll hold at the very least. And, I mean, they'll get some damage against the Knights, especially if you're sundering their armor. Sisters, Treekin, they have a good amount of non-AP damage, so get them down to, like, whatever, 60 armor with the armor sundering from the Sisters, and the Treekin might actually punch them. And they have magic damage, too, so it's not like you need extra ROR cost for magic damage. So, there's that. I think between these two, you could just about afford 3, if I'm doing the math right. Yeah, anyway. On Gandalf's side here, men-at-arms and peasants holding a line. Bowmen actually don't do a lot this time, but the Knights carry, of course. The Paladins do too, and the Fey Enchantress. Not insane damage value, but the Knights, man, Knights the Lion-Hearted. 1,600, 1,576 for Knights of the Realm, so they're definitely getting promoted to Grail Knights. Avengers of the Fleur-de-Lis also make their cost back here. Fun stuff. Nice series. Always like to see good tournament series. And I've got one more now planned for you guys. We'll see. How long have I been going for? In terms of the stream here. Does it actually show me? Anyway. Yeah, I've been going a decent amount of time. 2.5 hours. So, yeah, I think I'll probably just do this one more, and, I have a couple of others that people have submitted. I'll probably do those ones postcast style. But, yeah. Let's now move on. Let me get this going. Got Dance to Warzag up. So last one is going to be a series between 2 players, both of which, you know, I'm interested in watching them play. This is Butcherbird versus Maximus Decimus. So let's open this one up. Thank you, Warzag, once again for your contribution to the stream. And, yes, indeed, we've got Orion and Ariel versus Beastmen, and not only Beastmen, but Butcherbird, true hero of the people here, goes with Malagor, the Dark Omen, and Double Gorbel. I actually don't completely hate this Double Gorbel to try and kill the Wood Elf characters. He's got Centaurs with throwing axes, the one Centaur with magic damage, more so than the great weapons here, that's what matters. More regular Centaurs, whole bunch of Gore Herds. And you can see from the deployment that the Wood Elves attempting to go for a bit of a ambush here, but Beastmen swift enough to realize what's going on, and they're going to fully redeploy. Relatively narrow build, but pretty strong. Of course, Orion and Ariel, just ridiculous. Lost Sylvan Knights, we've got Dryads up front. Some Wild Riders with shields. Deepwood Scouts, 3 of them. Lost Sylvan Knights in particular, very, very good here. That's the reason why you specifically need the Sons of Goros. I mean, Malagor also has ways of dealing with them, and that involves Vile Tide, and I think he brought Traderkin. Yeah, Traderkin's pretty decent. It's not the greatest damage value on most units, but on something like the Lost Sylvan Knights, I do think, especially with the speed debuff allowing you to catch them with your Centaurs, you know, plus the damage, will probably pay for itself. About 2 hours, yeah. Dreaded Master Vanguard deployment, yeah. But Beastmen actually do pull up, redeploy, get set, which is totally something you're allowed to do. It's not like in tournament rules you immediately have to start YOLOing headfirst into your opponent. You certainly can take your time, you know, assess the situation, advance in a smart way, redeploy. I mean, there is, I think even explicitly within band rules, there's like a redeployment period, I want to say. I need to double check that, or maybe that's just something I made up in my head. But anyway, Dryads versus Gore Herds, the classic frontline clash. Both of them, I don't think they even had charge orders on each other, but, you know, they'll nevertheless engage in melee. This big old Crumpin force comes up and around, and you can see there it is, the Traderkin used on the Lost Sylvan Knights, overcast to even significantly debuff their speed, you know, more so. They do now get caught up by the Centaurs. Not necessarily the Centaurs with magic damage, but wow, that Traderkin just by itself did some significant damage. I'm pretty impressed. And yeah, the Centaurs that actually have the magic damage also got some damage in, so nice counter, but immediately they get Apotheosis, Berry Wine as well. So all in on the healing, maybe even a little bit over healing. Yeah, you can see how their HP is not actually ticking up at all. I mean, yeah, a little bit of overhealing there with the Berry Wine. That was maybe an overreaction, but this is potentially very, very bad. That Bound Awakening of the Wood going to try and save these Deepwood Scouts from the Centaurs, but all the Deepwood Scouts just getting rounded up by Centaurs. Throwing axes, chucking into these Dryads here. The Wild Riders with shields do punch through, though, and start to clean up some of this Beastman infantry. Same thing, Dryads do cause fear. They have decent enough stats to punch. I mean, they'll lose to Gore Herds, but like these Ungor Raiders, for example. Ungor Raiders are actually pretty decent in terms of infantry skirmish. They'll hold up okay, but look at this. Double Gorbel on Orion. Yes, indeed. Wow, Gorbel is actually bigger than Orion. I didn't realize. I thought Orion was slightly taller. But these cows make him look, you know, relatively tiny. And 2-on-1 especially is not great. I mean, Orion could definitely win 1v1. There's no question about that. But 2-on-1 with Ariel being busy trying to kill Malagor. Malagor's had a day of his own, you know, magicking the elves, but also just eating it. But provides a little bit of a distraction. Nice little charge in here by the Sons of Goros. They're going to give him Guardian as well, I believe. Yep, he's got a little bit of physical resistance there. Hounds of Orion going to be used to try and respond. But yeah, the Dryads get cleaned up there. Wild Riders get cleaned up there. One more Traderkin going to be used on... No, in fact, it's a Soul Stealer from Ariel. Going after the Sons of Goros. Dryads still cleaning out in the periphery. But I'd imagine, yeah, Centaurs are eventually going to go peel and try and stop that madness. The Centaurs finishing up with their prey, moving back. So at this point, it's pretty obvious. Once again, Orion and Ariel are going to take some time to go. But Malagor, at least for the time being, is alive. Double Gorbel also. They come in to try and finish off Orion, which is easier said than done, certainly. He's got Cloak of Visha active and Apotheosis as well. But let's see, Sons of Goros are coming in for a rear charge. We got all of these Centaurs as well, who can be used kind of one by one. Not to mention the throwing axes can throw their axes, and even though you don't need AP necessarily against these two targets, still high missile damage overall. And it is damage, right? Gorbel coming in once again, nice cycle charge. Sons of Goros. Yeah, this goes on for some time. The Dryads become a non-factor due to the Centaurs, and in fact, Malagor does bite the dust. So you said no cow shall cry today. I do think that he's crying. Also, the one Gorbel dies as well in, you know, the attempt to finish off these OP Wood Elf heroes. But there's still plenty of goats and centaurs, and, you know, various other beasts left. Although it is surprisingly close, maybe disturbingly close. Nice cycle charging, though. Yes, you are allowed to do this as per banner rules. I mean, he's fulfilling the attacking rule anyway, using the missile attacks here, but even once all the missile attacks are gone, you are allowed to cycle charge with multi-model units. Orion finally dies to some Centaurs, and eventually Ariel will as well. Got this one Gore Herd coming in here, too, with shields. You know they're important. Yes. And that's it. Quite the long end game there. Ariel and Orion surprisingly tanking out quite a bit, but credit to Butcherbird there. I love the double Gorbel pick here with Malagor. It's a bold one for sure, but ends up paying out. Sons of Goros, yeah, this is insane damage value on them too. Very good highlight of them. Has an ROR, magic damage, ends up being very critical. I mean, again, AP, not really a factor, but the magic damage, super important. Regular Centaurs, they also do a great job. Just the shock damage against the low HP of Wood Elves, and the fact that you can take like a lot of numbers of, again, lots of threats. Like with Onjaga's build against Wood Elves, basically everything here is threatening. I mean, the Gores are maybe not so threatening, but they're not pushovers by any means. They're solid enough infantry in their own right to threaten Wood Elf infantry. And yeah, the Centaurs with throwing weapons and Centaurs, regular ones, they're all threats, right? So, yeah, fun. Fun. Of course, Orion and Ariel tanking out a ton of damage value, but the rest of the army, I mean, Dryads do okay here. They actually trade decently. The Deepwood Scouts just got eaten up, and same thing with this cavalry as well. Man, Stag Knights. Yeah, people say the Stag Knights are good in this matchup. Just show them this replay right here. Fun. Indeed. Okay, let's go ahead and get to the next one. See if Maximus can pull it back, or if this is it for him and for the stream. Yes. Yeah, basically. We've got Greenskins versus Norska this time. And looks like it's a stone, yeah, not stone troll, but ice trolls rather, along with Wolfric, 6 skirmish cav, and a couple of doggos, ice doggos, and ROR doggos. Fire Fimir, actually not on a mammoth, he's on a horse, interesting. So no terror. I do think that's potentially a mistake against the Greenskins, but let's see. We've got Wolf Rider, Spider Rider Archers, Savage Orc Biggins, more Savage Orc Biggins, River Troll Hag, and yeah, Orc Shaman, Skarsnik, the Queen even. Savage Biggins, of course, great pick in this matchup. They actually even trade okay against Berserkers. I think Berserkers do win. Berserkers also take a lot of damage from Greenskins, everything, so a little bit of a nice skirmish phase. Once again, skirmish cavalry just, you know, going after each other. The damage here will go in Norska's favor. The range, though, I mean, Greenskins not really taking full advantage of it. They do have slightly longer range, and if, you know, where they were fully taking advantage of it, they wouldn't necessarily be taking too many javelins in response, but not a big deal. I mean, they're a relatively cheap unit. Good to prioritize your micro on these other important units, like the Spider Hatchlings, or the Queen, rather. Of course, the Hatchlings as well, getting a nice disruption, going straight through the gap here into the back line, even occupying the Ice Trolls momentarily. Definitely going to get routed almost instantly, but hey, they're doing something. Distracting. Even distracting these Ice Doggos here for a sec. Savage Biggins. Maybe not the best thing to directly charge with the Ice Trolls, but the Ice Trolls, do they deal magic damage? No, just Frostbite. Wolfric's going to go for the snipe on the River Troll Hag. Hunter of Champions puts her at 0 melee defense. And just bad situation all around. Nice Burning Head, too. Hits 2 Savage Orc Biggins. So already off to a pretty good start with Norska, trying to even the odds here against a better rush faction. This light cavalry also kind of pulling some units away on the flank, distracting them. The rest of the horsemen just content to sit in the back here. Horse Masters throw some javelins at whatever's here in the center. They managed to rout the Savage Biggins there. River Troll Hag also not feeling great, but Spite of the Bad Moon has been used. And the Spider comes in with all the extra AP and anti-large in the world. Nice Brain Bursta too. Help thin out some of that infantry. And suddenly things turn around in this center engagement. Skarsnik gets involved. Shaman even is in here, dancing the night away. You know, over-gyrating, probably throwing his hip out, but... Law being popped too, just to kind of keep up the buffs. I mean, it does affect everyone, obviously, and you can see here that Burning Head going to be used. Actually, unfortunately, mostly gets Marauders and the Ice Trolls here, or the Ice Wolves, rather. Ice Trolls had already routed, so a little bit of friendly fire, literally. Still back and forth, center engagement somewhat important. This is just a weird day for these goblins in two kind of corner engagements against Marauders. The Orc Shaman's got to be careful, though. He gets punched pretty hard by Wulfric here. Wulfric and the Famir, if they can gang up on him, will teach him a lesson, no doubt about that. But sometimes the lesson gets turned on you, because there's a giant spider and an evil goblin. And his pet mouth thing. And, of course, all the lads as well. Yeah. Fungi goes in, and that is the end of Wulfric the Wanderer. In fact, I think that's how he dies in the lore, I'm pretty sure. And with that, obviously, Ice Trolls are going to have a lot more leadership issues. And although up to that point, things were actually pretty close, a lot of the peripheral engagement starting to be won out by the Greenskins, and things are just kind of sliding. Wulfric's still alive, technically, and the balance powers is pretty close. The Queen's taking a lot of damage here, but a little bit of a Brain Bursta, finishing off those Marauders there. Yeah, Stone Trolls, or Ice Trolls, rather, get terrified. And the Javelins doing their thing. Happy Javelin Day to the Queen. One more Spiderling summon, though, before she goes. Should help chase those horsemen away. Maybe even bail the Queen out. She comes over to try and finish the Famir. Might die to Marauders. Only 500 HP, but looks like she's actually going to rout there. Skarsnik trying to find the Famir. You can see all the peripheral forces starting to collapse, and that will make a significant difference, being able to chase off these Stone Trolls and, you know, finish off, like, the Horsemen and everything. Yeah, you can see kind of the back of Norskin formation being broken. Wulfric does come back with about 200 HP, but he really doesn't have much left in the tank. There's really nothing at this point to kill Skarsnik. You know, Marauder Horsemen, even if they could get him singled out, maybe they have enough ammo to finish him off, but... if Balefiend's going to try and make that happen, kiting him away. Javelin Horsemen, unfortunately, are getting chased by the Spider Hatchlings, though. Oh, nice Burning Head. Savage Orcs somewhat dodged that, but it does look like one unit going to rout as a result. Yeah, a decent contact. But you can see the balance power sliding more and more as, like, the Stone Trolls start to shatter. Greenskins, light cavalry, which is decisively better, winning out the day. Happy Javelin Day to Skarsnik regardless. The Famir comes in to say hello and just gaze at him with that one creepy big eye. Kick him right in the teeth. Maybe tail whap a little bit. Oh, right to the face. And some Marauders also are here. Oh, man. Such a ridiculous game. I love it. Fermented Fungi, that should basically seal the deal. Spider Riders also coming in, and now Skarsnik, Goblin, can just sit back and cackle. Mir, yeah, only 65 armor on the Balefiend is okay, but it's not amazing. Spider Riders will do some damage to him in a surround like that. Nibbler. I thought that was, isn't that the dude on Grom's flag, or am I thinking of... yeah, I thought that was the dude on Grom's flag. I think you're thinking of someone else. I don't remember. Anyway. Yeah, Butcherbird having a rough go of it there. It is a tough matchup. Maximus Decimus doing exactly what you should in this matchup, which is take 6 skirmish cavalry, you know, 4 big ins. The Queens also, it's a bit of a risky pick. I don't know if I would 100% take this every time here. Norska's one of the best monster hunting factions in the game, so big expensive monsters against them are always risky, but the hero squad does a decent amount. Trollhag must have got crumped there after, well, we saw her get crumped a bit there in the beginning. Finish off. Marauders. Horsemen actually do a great job for the most part, despite being well countered by the Greenskins light cavalry. It's just they don't quite do enough. These doggo units as well were maybe perhaps the deciding factor. Also, I see people take ice trolls against greenskins. Rarely do I see it actually work. So I'm not sure about that. At least, you know, I know people can make it work. Like, I've seen it work occasionally, but it just seems like more often than not the right move. I would rather have, personally, the skin wolves, because skin wolves are fast enough that they could potentially catch, like, especially spider riders, but even wolf riders, if they're not careful, you could potentially catch with skin wolves. So I would take them over ice trolls any day, but that's just me. Blood for the Blood God. Yes, I do think so. I think they'll do a Blood DLC for Game 3. I mean, they've done it for the first 2 games. Seems to be a trend. Pet squig is named Goblet. Yes. Yes, that's the name. I was just making up, you know, mouth thing, because that's fun. Oh, boob for the boob god. Okay. I'm not sure about that, honestly. I do hope it's a setting. I don't know if they're going to be including any nudity in Total War Warhammer 3. I dearly hope, for the sake of all of us YouTubers, that there's a setting where you can have them cover up, because otherwise editing everything is going to be an actual nightmare. But anyway, let's bring it home here. Decimus Empire Butcherbird, this time switching to Greenskins. Let's take a look. Hellblaster, risky pick, potentially can be good. 3 Huntsmen, couple of Knights of the Blazing Sun. We've got a couple Flagellants, Sigmar's Sons. Yeah, a lot of ranged units to try and protect here, but Volkmar. Halberds as well. Just a nice mixed Empire build. Greenskins, once again, Skarsnik, of course. Night Goblin Shaman, Orc Shaman, Skarsnik, very competitive. Been seeing a lot of him and Grom both in the tournament, but more of him today specifically. Orc Boars and Orc Boarboy Biggins combined with Savage Orc Biggins is a really strong combination, so this is a tough build for Empire to crack. The one thing, you know, from my own perspective, and Anti-Mage can attribute to this, I like to do as much terror as possible, right? Again, thinking about Greenskins, their weakness is leadership, so taking as many terror units as possible, even if they do have Bob, like, you can still terrify away the cheap units on the periphery, right? Which is why I like Double Griffin, as you guys should know by now. Double Griffin, Boris plus the Amber Griffin gives you also 2 more Manticore summons, 4 mobile terror units you can have online all at the same time, and a nasty Vindictive Glare does a ton of damage to this Bright Wizard, despite the fact he's not actually on a horse. That is another issue here, is basically all of your mages are vulnerable to getting sniped by that. You could potentially try and hide him here in the woods somewhere, defend against that, but Empire right now sitting back kind of passive. The Huntsman not actually focusing any of the large targets or even preparing for them. I'm not sure about... I don't completely love this Empire build, I'm not going to lie. But Skarsnik eating some of the fire, I guess, is okay. A little bit of a quick hit and run, Knights of Blazing Sun on some of these lighter units in the front line. That is going to potentially leave some gaps here in the back, though, where these Spider Riders could come through and start to get on some of these ranged units. That Vindictive Glare doesn't make full contact on the Bright Wizard, gets some damage on him, but the Spears, Knights of Blazing Sun able to mostly block up the Spider Riders from this side. A nice Burning Head in the front line, too, trying to equalize things. Roast out some of those Orc Boys. Also, unfortunately, does some significant damage to those Flagellants. Oh, ooh, yeah, some nasty damage to those Flagellants. But the expensive Hellblaster gets mopped up by Spider Riders as well. And this is the issue here, is Greenskins, in this particular setup, have a lot more mobility than Empire. Oh, man, that Fanatics cast, too, just destroys an entire unit of Spearmen, which, I mean, granted, they were getting steamrolled anyway. But goes on to do a little bit of friendly damage against the Boars. That's fine. Boars are still collapsing along with the Spiders. Spiders are mostly gone by now, but that's allowed the Boars to get into combat without having taken so much damage. Still, dangerous situation. Wah being popped, also Spider the Bad Moon to give some extra anti-large here, but there's just not that many Boars, actually, and they are kind of getting ground down by the Halberds, Knights of the Blazing Sun. Skarsnik also taking a lot of damage here, keeping things close from the Huntsman and, you know, various other ranged threats. Yeah. Oh, man, let's see. Looks like there was a potential Burning Head going to pop up there, but I think the Bright Wizard actually got knocked over. This flank has entirely collapsed, though. We've got 8-peak Loons, we've got Boar Cav, we've got Savage Biggins, just, you know, mostly healthy. Burning Head will do some damage, but you've still got the imminent threat of these boar boys here kind of charging this backline. A couple of goblin units still holding up in various pockets as well. A lot of the huntsmen have been inundated, so things are not looking great for the Empire right now. See if they can pull things back. Obviously, Volkmar very, very strong. Probably going to terrify Skarsnik away here if I had to guess. Skarsnik not immune to psychology. Right now just getting straight up pushed by Volkmar. Granted, this is pulling Volkmar away from his army, which he desperately needs to support, and a lot of them are starting to just crumble to the Horde here. A lot of units routing and shattering now, so yeah. Way to end the series with an Empire loss, yes, it makes me sad. But at the same time, it was a great series nonetheless. You can see the Greenskins just doing exactly as they should, using their cavalry to mop up all those battered units. Volkmar does eventually finish Skarsnik, but at what cost? His entire army basically is gone at this point, and it's just Volkmar now to be cycle charged by Borkav. I mean, granted, he does, with his magic bombardment there, finish a unit of Borkav. More Biggins and Borkav coming to surround here, and he's going to banish them. So, I mean, Volkmar is not, he's not helpless. He's also going to shatter the shaman there. I mean, he's punching back. He's trying his best. There's just so much left. So many boars, and they're going to keep coming back from rout. He doesn't have any way of keeping them routed. He does have infinite soulfires. Yes, that is true. But it's just a matter of time. It's basically a timer, right? Like, can the Greenskins do enough damage to him before he can use enough soulfires to just carry? And, you know, the terror is an issue. I will admit, terror is an issue. Regular boys. Man, will it? Could it? Will Volkmar actually carry? I mean, it's not looking great for the Greenskins at this point. Oh, and a giant swing and a miss there. Probably should have waited anyway until Grand Shield of Faith was done. But a giant swing and a miss there from the Night Goblin Shaman on a Vindictive Glare that could have ended the game, potentially. I mean, Volkmar, of course, still has the damage resistance. He's also got magic and missile resistance. So, you know what? Actually, in hindsight, that Vindictive Glare probably not going to do all that much damage with everything stacked on top of each other. I think you are actually at 75 resistance. Or more, all said and done. 77 resistance. Yep. Wow. I was thinking this would be an Empire loss. Called it far too early. Ah, the Volkmar mustache carries. Oh, good old OP, unbreakable Volkmar. Yes. I thought it would be a loss for Empire. That initial engagement, all that range stuff, just getting horribly, brutally murdered. But Volkmar, unlimited soul fires, steam... not Steam Train, but Light Train, just purely fueled by the Light of Sigmar. Almost 4,000 damage value. Take that, OP Orion. Anyway, yeah, the Fire Wizard getting some pretty good damage in as well. Some nice friendly burning heads also. A lot of the army really doesn't do a ton, honestly. Huntsmen, yeah, despite getting ransacked, a couple of them do pay for themselves. The Hellblaster actually did get some damage. Not completely terrible, but Volkmar definitely carried that game super hard. Basically, like, everything died so Volkmar could live, more or less. And from the Greenskin side, you know, pretty rough there at the end. The way you would probably want to play that, more or less, is how he did. But, well, like I said, just maybe wait till that is done. If you do get the Vindictive Glare, maybe it's enough to turn things when he doesn't have Shield of Faith. If he has Shield of Faith up, I mean, it's even worse he is, right? But anyway, Boar Boy Biggins do an okay job, definitely generates some nice value. The regular Boar Boys too, very cost-effective pick in this matchup. Spider Riders helping in the backline do a decent job. 2,000 damage value on the 8 Peak Loons. Got some just brutal Fanatics casts there. Yeah. Ends up being very, very close. I'd be furious if I was Butcherbird, but at the same time, it's Empire. What can you do? Yeah, I agree. Soulfire should not be infinite. This is a good replay to kind of demonstrate why Soulfire should not be infinite. I do think it should be capped at 3 uses, like a lot of other bombardment abilities are. That's just me, though. What do I know? I'm just an Empire main. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you all so much for coming out. Yeah, I'm just going to sit now and take a little bit of questions. Let's throw some music on. And we'll just, yeah, chill out for a little bit. You know, is it? I actually hadn't thought about that. Maybe. He got 0 kills too. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, Soulfire, I do think both the Warrior Priest and Volkmar's version should be capped at 3 uses. That's coming from an Empire main. Yes, I'm advocating for a nerf to Empire. Even then, though, like, in most games, because it's a 120-second cooldown, you're not going to get more than, realistically, in most games, 2 or 3 of these. Sometimes in long games you can get more, and I think that's where things kind of start to break down. So I think 3, even at 3 charges, like in a lot of battles, I would probably say 60 to 70% of battles, you're not even going to use all 3 charges. So, what faction do I hate most? Vampire Counts. Just kidding. I have like a very love-hate relationship with Vampire Counts. I actually really do like a lot of things about them. I just don't... I really, really don't like certain things about them. Ah, thank you, David. Much appreciated. Sad goblin noises. Ability caps are standard at this point. Yeah, there's a handful. There's only a handful of damage abilities that don't have a cap on the total number of uses. That's one of them. I'm trying to think of other ones. Is Durthu's Lamentation of Despair? I think this has... Yeah, this has unlimited charges. There's literally only like 2 or 3 effects in the entire game that actually do damage that have unlimited charges. There's obviously a good reason for that. Wood Elves. Yeah, Wood Elves, I'm really hoping they get some nerfs in the upcoming Rakarth patch. And for those of you guys who missed it at the beginning, I will be releasing a video Monday. Or no, sorry, not Monday. Not Monday. Wednesday. Wednesday, I'll have a video out about Rakarth. I've got a few multiplayer battles done with him. We'll give you my thoughts there. Hoping to get some more, but at the very least, I've got one video recorded and ready to go for you guys. It's capped by recharging combat, though. Does Lamentation of Despair actually recharge in melee? I thought it did not. It doesn't recharge in melee. Maybe it used to, but yeah, Lamentation of Despair is not. Oh, Sunfang. Oh, yeah, I missed the comment before. Duh, yeah. Yeah, Sunfang's not so much of an issue because of that. Again, super long cooldown, too. Snitch, actually... Does his Whirlwind of Blades have... This also, again, 120-second cooldown, but does not have a max number of uses. Granted, Snitch is squishy, so how many uses are you actually going to get? But, and Snitch is nasty. I forget how nasty Snitch is, because I don't use him that much these days. But this one's also significantly more expensive, right? Like, 232 compared to Grand Soulfire is, I want to say... Let's actually check. The fully kitted Volkmar. 200. Yeah, so it is not a ton cheaper, but it is cheaper. Interesting. That would be breaking the rules, Total War. You gotta wait till Wednesday. Are you gonna cast the FFA with Hint Rubber Duck? Oh, you mean the all-vampire one that I refuse to even watch? Yes, I would be flogged, that is true, for heresy. And nobody wants that, so I think I'll just wait. But come back Wednesday, you can for sure see all about him. Yeah. You know, there is one other damage ability as well that has infinite cooldowns and actually has infinite, you know, damage. And that is Mortis Engines. Good old Bretonnia. The Enchantress, Mist of the Lady. This is also... I wonder if there would be any way to cap the total damage that someone could take from Mortis Engine effects. That'd be interesting. I don't know. Anyway, guys. Watch the first 5 minutes. Anyway, thanks for coming out, guys. Much appreciated. It's been awesome. Might do a King of the Hill stream sometime next week. I don't know. It kind of depends on work schedule. I am pretty busy with my day job right now. But thank you all so much for coming out. It's been an absolute pleasure. Be sure to subscribe, like, share, all that jazz. If you haven't, thanks again. See you next time. Bye-bye.